It was like deathly silence on the island. The next second, the island instantly broke into two halves and a large amount of seawater surged out from the gap. Everyone saw this scene in front of them. Khalifa subconsciously tightened her grip on Katkin. At this time, the phantom next to Zephyr came to Khalifa. Khalifa took them back to Marine Vano. I have completely stabilized Teacher Zephyr's body, but he needs more stable treatment conditions. In addition, if nothing happens, this island will disappear from the sea map. In order not to affect you, I hope you will return to Marine Fando now. But you, I'll be fine. I'm General Beige. The words fell, and the phantom shattered. Immediately afterwards, other phantoms were shattered one after another. Time seems to stand still at this moment, and he came to Khalifa's side and said, "Sir, what should we do now?" Watching the fierce battle on the island, he glanced at Zephyr on the ground. Khalifa took a deep breath, her eyes full of seriousness. "I believe Roja. Let's evacuate immediately and return to Marineland. Anyone who can move, please come and help me." The warship leaves the island. During this period of time, Roja continued to avoid Weibald's attacks. At this time, the island was in ruins under Weibald's attack. Rainwater accumulated in these pitted ground, making it full of mud. The island was basically broken into pieces. There is a faint downward trend, but Weibald was still like a wild beast, constantly attacking Roja. It seems like he won't be exhausted at all. Seeing the warship gradually disappear from sight, the corners of Roja's mouth raised slightly. At this time, there were only two of them on the island. The warship is also far away, which means he can use all his strength. During this time, he was almost active. The spell ability activates. Float. Roja's body suddenly jumped into the air, looking down at Whitebeard II in the sky. "It's been a long time since I've had a good time to move my body. I hope you can bear it." After the words fell, a blazing flame bloomed in Roja's hand. The flames continued to rise, condensing into a simple samurai sword. The blade was slightly slender, with a cold light glowing on it. "You haven't been out and about for a long time." Roja whispered softly to his Zanpakutō. The blade of the sword, which was as sharp as fire, also trembled slightly at this time, and responded, "In that case, let's liberate ourselves. Everything in the world is turned into ashes, and the blades flow like fire." In an instant, the blade in Roja's hand suddenly burst out into a shocking flame. The monstrous flame swept out again. The color of heaven and earth changes for it. A big hole was opened in the dark clouds. The heavy rain stopped at this time, and the Brontosaurus also stopped roaring. As the hole continued to spread, sunny day appeared on the island. Faced with this situation, Weibald had no reaction. Still roaring, he rushed towards Roja. The corners of Roja's mouth turned up slightly. He stroked the sword lightly and said, "First style, caressing and cutting." The sword flashes, and spiritual pressure surges. The monstrous flames roared out. The peak state of the great swordsman and the terrifying spiritual pressure that resembles an overlord's domineering spirit are intertwined. Immediately afterwards, Roja slashed with one sword. Weibald watched the slash gradually enlarge in his field of vision. He also brandished his long-handled sword, trying to resist. Bang. Weibald was holding a big knife, and even instinctively used his weapons to wrap himself around the big knife. The terrifying long-handled sword cooperates with Weibald's own super strength. The air was full of whistling sounds. The long-handled sword cut through the air, exerting great pressure, and struck heavily on the slash. The powerful reaction force made Weibald's mouth numb. His muscles were trembling constantly, he was gritting his teeth, and blood was flowing out of the corners of his mouth unconsciously. Ho ho ho! A beast-like roar came from his mouth, a harsh sound accompanied by dazzling sparks. Weibald was forcefully pushed back several hundred meters under Roja's slash. Two deep lines of mud were drawn. Bang! Finally, Weibald's long-handled sword was overwhelmed and was cut off by Roja's slash. Without Weibald's resistance, the slashing attack continued with undiminished power. The blade mixed with fragments tore through Weibald's terrifying defense. Gene Weibald's body, which was like a hill, was shot away like a kite with its string broken. Bang! It hit hard into a mountain. The bloody red color in Weibald's eyes gradually faded. He only felt as if his internal organs had undergone a major displacement. The body is full of mushy feeling. If it were an ordinary person, he would have died long ago and would not be able to die again. But his body has terrifying recovery power. As long as he is given time, he can recover. However, at this time, Roja slowly floated in front of Weibel, the cloak of justice whirred under the howling of the strong wind. Roya looked at Weibel condescendingly, and he saw a look of panic in Weibel's eyes. Although Weibel's brain doesn't work well, his body can remember the damage. He was able to inflict such a heavy blow to Weibel. Come to think of it, in his subconscious, he has become an invincible existence. If no one continues to give orders, he may turn around and run away next. It seemed to be to verify Roka's own conjecture. Weibel was seen struggling out of the rocks, turning around and trying to escape. But how could Roja let Weibel go so easily? Shave. In an instant, Roya came to Weibel. Taking advantage of Weibel's current situation, his mental strength was unstable and his mood fluctuated greatly. Roja directly pulled Weibel into the illusion, through the illusion, fruit. The whole process was completely uneventful. In just 1 second, Roka's illusion completely swallowed. Weibel's spirit, his spirit will live in an illusion forever. Through external orders, Weibel's illusion will also change accordingly. In other words, Weibel is now a war machine belonging to Roya. Your strength and recovery ability are indeed great. Instead of killing you, I might as well let you work for me, just in case I need you. Before Roja could finish speaking, the island began to collapse. After the battle between Roya and Weibel, the island finally reached the breaking point, gradually swallowed by the seawater. Without any hesitation, Roya directly took Noah's Ark out of the system. The huge Noah's Ark did not enter the sea, but floated in the air under the power of the spell, dragging Weibel's body like a hill. Roja came to the deck of Noah's Ark. It has to be said that Noah's Ark is really too big. Just standing on the deck, everything you look at is the hull of Noah's Ark. At that moment, when two people stood on Noah's Ark, the island below collapsed instantly. The entire island was swallowed up by the ocean. The waves continued to surge and stir, and a huge whirlpool appeared. Did not stay here any longer. Roja then used the power of the spell to fly towards O'Hara. Now, Weibel can be described as a war machine. It is also a very powerful war machine, and Roja can guarantee that he will always be loyal to him. Therefore, he planned to send Weibel to O'Hara. You must know that O'Hara is still under the surveillance of the Navy at this time. Roja even felt that if the Navy couldn't find anything in its investigation soon, there will definitely be another attack. It's okay to say that I'm here. Even when he is not there, Weibel still exists. This is enough for many situations. When Roja was heading towards O'Hara, Khalifa and others had already arrived at Marine Fando in a warship. Marine Fando was also prepared early. The best medical team conducted a series of examinations on Zephyr the moment the warship docked. When they looked at Zephyr, they saw that, despite being so seriously injured, his life was not in danger. They immediately felt an awe of heaven and man. Master Khalifa, what happened to Master Zephyr? His vital signs are only weak, but there are no symptoms of crisis. This is simply incredible. As time went by, the medical team discovered that many of these naval interns also had this condition. This shows that there was a person with very superior medical skills who treated them before them. Moreover, this kind of treatment method was unheard of for them. In this regard, Khalifa just said lightly, this is General White Pigeon who treated them when they were injured. What General Baigay actually has such superb medical skills? This kind of medical skill has far surpassed ours. This is simply a miracle, a miracle. At this time, after watching Zephyr, Warring States came to Khalifa. Khalifa, where is the White Dove? When we left, Bage was fighting Whitebeard II. At that time, the island was about to collapse. He asked me to escort Zephyr and the others back first, to provide better treatment and stabilize their physical condition. To prevent them from leaving any sequelae, I choose to believe in Roja. In the end, Khalifa called Roja. Warring States looked at Khalifa, clenching her fingers and biting her lower lip, her eyebrows slightly furrowed. His heart sank and he said, I also believe in Baigay. I believe he must be sure before he said this. Let's talk. Maybe there will be news in a few days, and I will also send investigators to investigate, so don't worry. Khalifa nodded, and then she took out a phone bug from her pocket This phone bug is the exclusive phone bug of Roya's general. But because he rushed to help, Roja didn't wear it. In other words, they had no way to contact Roja. Time flies. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. During these 3 days, Khalifa barely slept a wink. She was in the Warring States office almost all day long, wanting to know the news about Roja as soon as possible. Bulu Bulu. In Sengoku's office, the voice of a phone bug rang. Khalifa came to the table in an instant and looked at the phone bug expectantly. She hoped to hear good news about Roja. Warring States didn't hesitate and immediately answered the call. Only the voice of the intelligence officer came from the phone bug. Reporting to the marshal, we have been searching for the coordinates for a day, but we have not found any trace of the island. The island seems to have disappeared out of thin air. Hearing the intelligence officer's words, Sengoku's heart sank. He couldn't find the island at the specified coordinates. Does that mean the island has sunk into the sea? Sure enough, when Khalifa heard the news, I just felt that my eyes were dark for a while. Khalifa, who almost fainted, sat helplessly on the sofa. She murmured to herself, "Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Nothing will happen to Roja. Roja is so strong. No matter how powerful Whitebeard II is, there is no way he can defeat Roja." Thinking of this, a strong resentment flashed in Khalifa's eyes. This resentment is Khalifa's resentment against herself. It would be great if she could be stronger and help Roja at that time. Strength. She needs more strength. Thinking of this, Khalifa decided to make use of her time. She believed that Roja would be absolutely fine, but she won't continue to wait here. She must seize every opportunity to strengthen herself. "Marshal, I heard that there will be a competition for the Special Intelligence Department in the near future, and I want to sign up." Warring States was stunned for a moment, but he quickly reacted, nodded, and said, "I will sign you up. In addition, if there is any news about Roja, I will notify you as soon as possible." Khalifa said, "Please, Marshal." With that said, Khalifa walked out of Sengoku's office. As soon as she walked out, she saw a woman with pink hair. "Khalifa, Tina is here to find you." Tina said to Khalifa. Khalifa raised her water-like eyes, which contained almost no emotion, and said softly to Tina, "Tina, if you are asking me where Roja is, I don't know. I am waiting. He's back." With that said, Khalifa walked past Tina. I only heard Tina say Tina also believes that nothing will happen to Roja, because Tina also believes in Roja, but Tina feels very uncomfortable now. When she heard that you were in the marshal's office, she wanted to come here and invite you to fight at the training ground. A bright light flashed in Khalifa's eyes. The corners of her mouth raised slightly, and she immediately said to Tina, "Let's go to the training ground. I just need to fight to relieve my current mood." On the other side, Roja sat on the edge of the boat, looking down at the floating clouds. At this time, Roja also discovered that he did not bring a phone bug. After all, he didn't have the habit of carrying a phone bug with him at all. Usually it is placed directly in the warship, or Khalifa helps to hold it. Sighing, Roja sighed softly. "In order not to worry Khalifa and make Warring States suspicious, I'd better go to Wakahara quickly and put Weibel down." Thinking of this, Lu Adam adjusted the power of the spell to the maximum output. I saw the huge Noah's Ark like an airship quickly heading towards O'Hara Malambando. In the office, Warring States stood in front of the office window, looking at Khalifa and Tina, who were constantly fighting below, and sighed in his heart, "No one knows Roja's strength better than Sengoku. That armed domination has definitely reached its peak. Based on this alone, not many people in this sea can kill Roja. Thinking about it, he must have been delayed by something, or trouble." Sighing again, Warring States came to the desk and picked up an action plan on it. This action planning was originally planned to be completed by Roja, because Roja is the most powerful and has the highest success rate. But now that Roja has not come back, in order to ensure that the plan can start on time, Sengoku can only ask Akainu to come and take over the task. There is no way. Kizaru is on duty now, and cannot leave Marine Fando, unless there is something particularly important. IPG also has other tasks in his hands now, so letting Akainu go is the best choice now. Soon, Akainu arrived in Sengoku's office.
"Master Marshal!"
After performing a very standard military salute, Akainu stood in front of Sengoku, waiting for Sengoku to issue the mission. Akainu, according to the investigation of the Intelligence Department, O'Hara has no other changes except for the addition of a defensive wall surrounded by tree roots. Even the mysterious strong man has not appeared again. So we suspect that O'Hara may not have much fighting power now. Your mission is to go over and test them after confirming that they don't have strong combat power. If you can destroy them, then destroy them. If that doesn't work, ask for support immediately, and we will give you more assistance. Upon hearing Sengoku's mission, the veins on Akainu's body suddenly popped out. The battle at O'Hara was his most humiliating battle. Since returning from that battle, he has been training his strength continuously. Especially after being defeated by Roja, his training volume tripled. The strength has become stronger than before. Promise to complete the mission. Justice will prevail. After saying that, Akainu turned around gracefully and left Sengoku's office. This time, he must avenge his shame. Completely remove the island of O'Hara from the sea map. 2 more days passed. Roja sat on the edge of the boat and finally saw the omniscient tree not far below, soaring into the sky. He finally came to O'Hara again, and he didn't know if Robin missed him. Thinking of this, the corners of Roja's mouth rose slightly, but he also knew that his time was very tight, so without wasting any time, he controlled Noah's Ark to slowly descend. After watching Robin, he will be ready to return to Marinefando. Enter O'Hara. Robin, who was exercising his abilities on the coast, looked frozen when he saw the scene in front of him. Mom, there may be a strong enemy coming. Olvia looked up at the slowly descending ship. Her pupils shrank suddenly. This is Noah's Ark. How could it be possible? According to the records I saw, isn't Noah's Ark near Fishman Island? Why? It may appear here and fall from the sky. How much power does it take to be able to do this? Robin, let's go and inform the scholars and run away immediately. Ever since the demon-slaying order happened, they had gathered all their supplies together and were able to run away at any time. Mom, it's too late. Robin's delicate and pretty face looked seriously at the huge figure descending from the sky. The figure was like a hill, dozens of times larger than Robin. Bang! Weibel fell from the sky and hit the ground, forming a small crater. Robin and Olvia felt the earth tremble. A trail of cold sweat appeared on their fair foreheads. Robin, long time no see. However, at this time, a voice that was very familiar to Robin and Olivia floated into their ears. Before I saw the person, I heard his voice first. But even so, Robin could tell who this voice that made her think about day and night was. Brother Luo, yeah. Watching Roja casually take Noah's Ark back into the system space, and then slowly fall from the sky, Olvia was shocked, looking at the scene in front of her. Robin finally couldn't restrain the excitement in his heart and threw himself directly into Roja's arms. Brother Lou, yeah, it's really you. You're finally here. I miss you so much. Robin hugged Roja hard, as if he wanted to blend himself into Roja's arms. Robin kept smelling Roja's scent. The smell made her feel very at ease. Olvia, who was on the side, saw this scene, and her heart that had been hanging gradually relaxed. Roja, this is... Olvia looked at Fievel behind Roja and said, You said he is a humanoid weapon used to protect you. After that, Roja looked at Weibel and said to Weibel, Weibel will listen to these 2 people from today. Yes, Weibel replied. Is he great? Robin said to Roja, it's not bad, now he has the power of Whitebeard when he was young. As Roja's words fell, Olvia looked at Weibel in disbelief. He stretched out his finger tremblingly, pointed at Weibel and said, He has the power of Whitebeard when he was young? Olvia's time galloping on the sea was not short. She was naturally familiar with Whitebeard's reputation. He also knew how powerful Whitebeard was. He is one of the 4 great pirates in the New World, and is known as the strongest man in the world. According to Roja, this guy named Weibel has the power of Whitebeard when he was young. What a terrifying power this is. Roja, how did you meet him? Originally they were enemies, but they were finally defeated. Olivia covered her mouth. She just thought this was too dreamy. A man with the strength of Whitebeard's youth was actually defeated by Roja. So, how powerful is Roja's strength? But Olvia then thought about it. Roja was a ruthless man who destroyed the demon-slaying order with 1 sword. It is not so incredible to have such a powerful power, right? So after you leave, will you... Olvia expressed her worries to Roja. In this regard, Roja said that he could order him with confidence. No matter what the order is, it is acceptable. Just as Roja finished his words, he only heard the sound of artillery shelling from a distance. One warship after another, they rushed towards O'Hara without slowing down. There are 5 warships in total. The one in the middle is Akainu's Vice Admiral class warship. Akainu stood on the deck, looking at O'Hara in front of him, holding his hands tightly together. Keep giving me more firepower! But Lord Akainu, didn't Lord Marshal ask us to come here to test? That's it! Before the commander next to him could finish his words, Akainu interrupted him. The justice of the Navy cannot be tarnished. The existence of this island is sin, and we must eliminate sin. Akainu frowned, and his whole person looked more fierce. The soldiers around him didn't say much. Since Lieutenant General Akainu has given the order, they just have to obey. Cannonballs were continuously fired from the barrel, exuding the smell of gunpowder smoke in the air, crossing an arc, whistling and landing on the defensive wall composed of the roots of the Tree of Omniscience. Within the island, Roja used the fantasy fruit to put a cloak on himself, and Weibel, the cloak hid his and Weeble's figures and faces. Roja touched Robin's hair and said softly, "Robin, let me give you a gift. Please watch a show. Study hard. This is a rare experience for you." After the words fell, Roja slammed his hands on the ground. Wooden release, the birth of the tree world. The large amount of vitality brought by the wood escape flows into the ground through the soil layer, nourishing the roots of the omniscient tree. I saw that these roots seemed to have come alive, slowly untying themselves and returning to the ground. Roya ordered to Weibel, "Weibel, smash all the warships in front of you, and kill anyone who blocks it." "Yes!" In response, Weibel rushed towards the warship without hesitation. Now the show begins! Akainu on the deck suddenly panicked when he saw 2 figures wearing cloaks revealed after the defensive wall returned to the ground. But then he took a deep breath and looked at the 2 men in cloaks on the island with a serious expression. The normal-sized man next to him, Akainu knew, was the mysterious man who defeated him, an Aokiji with 1 sword. And this was the first time he had seen that mysterious man who looked like a hill. But even this time, there are 2 mysterious people. Akainu also showed no intention of retreating. The Navy will not allow retreat. On the road of massacre of darkness, only justice can exist forever. As soon as he finished speaking, Akainu rushed out from the deck. His feet stepped quickly through the air. Perform the moon step. I saw Akainu taking the lead in occupying the highest point. His hands turned into rolling lava and hit Weibel, who was rushing towards him. "Well done! Let me give you a taste of the Hades." Akainu's arms, rapid body length, and extremely fast speed. There was even a harsh whistling sound in the air. The rolling magma burned the air and made it seem unreal. It can be seen that Akainu has doubled in strength compared to the last time. However, Akainu faced Weibel, who no longer had any fear and was not afraid of pain. Facing such a fierce attack, Weibel didn't even frown.
"The thin leg's bent and kicked hard."
A pothole appears on O'Hara's island. The powerful reaction force drove Weibel's body towards Akainu like a huge cannonball. In his eyes, it was as if Akainu's attack was not visible at all. Boom! 2 streams of rolling lava hit Weibel's body mercilessly. Weibel's body was burned with 2 shallow holes. Blood immediately poured out of the wound. In just 3 seconds, the wound healed as before. This terrifying super self-healing ability made Akainu stunned. Before he could react, Weibel had already rushed in front of him, armed with domineering color. Although not as good as Roja's peak weapon color, but it has also reached the intermediate entry level. Weibel raised his fist and hit Akainu on the chest mercilessly. However, Akainu used the sight color to elementalize part of his body in advance, so he was not harmed by Weibel. "I've gone through hell training. If I get hit by such a childish attack, I won't have to mess around." With that said, Akainu released the magma from his body. Dog bites Gurren. Akainu once again turned his arms into lava, then turned the lava arms into the shape of a dog's head, and extended his lava limbs. These dog heads made of lava will bite the enemy when attacking. I saw these dog heads mixed with hot breath biting Weibel's body. Suffer death, take the evil in you, and be swallowed by the sea. Akainu planned to take advantage of the victory and kill Weibel at once. But at this moment, a palpitation flashed through Akainu's heart, and he felt as if he was being targeted by some ferocious beast. The next second, Weibel's muscles suddenly swelled, and his eyes seemed to be filled with blood. He directly used magma to blast Akainu's dog's head, Before Akainu could react, Weibel used an even faster speed than before, wrapped an armed haki and hit Akainu hard on the head. Akainu felt as if his head was being hit hard, and he felt a strong sense of dizziness. On the island, Roja saw this scene in front of him. He shook his head and said softly, "Akainu is still the same as before. He always talks about justice and is always confident. Although his strength is not bad, he is always too easy to be complacent." Ryo was commenting on the sidelines. At the same time, he analyzed the battle between Akainu and Weibel. Robin kept nodding beside her, and she was also trying to predict the next attack method of the two people. This is already considered a very advanced battle. This is a very valuable experience for Robin. Watching a battle of this level, if you can study it thoroughly, you can avoid many detours in the future. Olvi obviously also knew Roja's good intentions. I just felt very touched in my heart. Thinking of the situation when I met Roja, I felt warm in my heart. If she hadn't been rescued by Roja at that time, she wouldn't be so happy now. Yes, being able to be by Robin's side made Olvia feel unprecedentedly happy. What's more, she can still see Roja occasionally. In the sky, Weibel and Akainu were fighting together. The two of them were fighting back and forth. The soldiers on the warship were stunned at this moment. They even forgot about it and continued to load the shells and attack. This guy looks so strong. It feels like I have endless energy. Have you noticed? The man on the shore of O'Hara hasn't taken action yet. That should be the boss. I've heard that this man destroyed the demon-slaying order with just one sword. That's Akainu and Aokiji joining forces. In other words, in the current scene, this person is simply too lazy to take action. Thinking of this, these soldiers only felt terrified in their hearts. Quick, contact Marshal Warring States! But if we directly bypass Lieutenant General Akainu and contact Marshal Sengoku, we will... So what? Now that Akainu-sama is fighting with that monster, and the mysterious man next to him has no intention of taking action, let's contact Marshal Sengoku as soon as possible, otherwise I'm afraid we won't have a chance. The phone bug was picked up quickly. The colonel immediately said, "Marshal, I am the colonel of Lieutenant General Akainu. Now Lieutenant General Akainu is fighting a monster in a cloak. Is it that mysterious man?" No, the mysterious man is watching from a distance. The figure of this mysterious man is as strong as a small hill. That is to say, two mysterious people appeared, and Akainu, this guy just rushed up without knowing anything. When the Warring States period sent out Akainu, there was some hesitation. I am afraid that he will be blind and impulsive because he is too principled. So before he set off, he emphasized it again and again, but he didn't expect that Akainu would still go his own way. How's the battle going now? Colonel looked at the sky and said, "Lieutenant General Akainu seems to want to end the battle quickly, but the opponent's recovery ability is too strong. Lieutenant General Akainu's attack recovered in a short time." When I heard these words from the colonel, I was in the Warring States period in Marine Vondo, and I felt like there was a surge of anger in my chest, as if it was about to burst out. The most important thing is that Warring States learned there was not only one mysterious man in a cloak, but also others. Maybe it's still an organization. Bang. In a rage, Warring States smashed the table in front of him to pieces. He was dragged by others, and the mysterious man was watching him from a distance. Did Akainu really forget about his orders and the strict discipline of the Navy? Are you starting to kill people right in front of their door? In fact, Akainu is also complaining endlessly now. After going through hell training, his strength has been greatly improved. In his mind, his strength should be comparable to Roja. What's more, he still has the ability to press the bottom of the box, but he hasn't used it yet. But who knew that the monster in front of him had a super abnormal self-healing ability? No matter how big the wound he caused on Weibel's body, it only took a short moment for him to recover. Moreover, his physical strength seems to be endless, so how can he fight? As for retreating, Akainu would never allow it in his mind. Justice can never be defeated by evil. But that's not what the Warring States period thought. I grant you command of this operation and immediately start preparing to retreat. At the same time, I remind Akainu to retreat immediately once he escapes. O'Hara will leave it alone for the time being. With that said, Warring States hung up the phone directly. It has to be said that the news from the phone bug alone gave Warring States a headache. There is more than one mysterious person, and it may even be an organization. This means that O'Hara is very dangerous, but now the new world is even more chaotic, and the Navy has no way to control so many things. Moreover, the Navy's prestige was constantly restored thanks to Roja's actions. But because of Akainu, this blind attack once again humiliated the Navy. This guy Akainu, he really succeeds more than he fails. The other side. The Navy in the O'Hara waters has begun to continuously regulate the soldiers and conduct an orderly retreat. Akainu, who was fighting in the sky, obviously noticed this scene. Akainu, who had just been punched by Weibel, had a slightly fiery temper, but at this moment, it completely exploded. You are running away from the battlefield. Anyone who dares to retreat will be dealt with according to military discipline. At this time, the captain on the warship finally broke out. He summoned up all his strength and shouted to Akainu, even if it is a violation of military discipline, you are the one who violated military discipline first. Besides, Marshal Sengoku has just given me command of this operation, and I now order you to retreat immediately. After saying these words, the soldiers on the warship suddenly burst into warm applause. They had all had enough of Akainu. Now, a colonel angrily scolded Lieutenant General Akainu in front of them. This kind of operation was simply unheard of and unseen by them. I gained a lot of experience today. It's not just that they have learned a lot. Even Roja, Robin, and Olvia all expressed their knowledge. Olvia was at the side and joked to Roja, "Roja, are your navy so messed up?" Who knows? Sengoku's idea may be good, but he ignored Akainu's character. Akainu must have been waiting for this day for a long time. It is impossible to test it slowly, so the fault lies with Akainu. On the body, it's because of Akainu's existence that this action turned into a joke, but the joke is pretty good, isn't it? Robin's eyebrows were curved, and he nodded vigorously next to Roja. But I'm tired of seeing it. Since the Navy is planning to retreat, let's give them a gift. You can't let them come in vain, can you? After all, my current identity is on the opposite side of the Navy. Roja said, slowly pulling out the blade. Weibel, withdraw. Roja lowered his voice, making his voice dull. After Weibel heard Roja's words, he immediately turned around and left, not even paying attention to Akainu's attack. He let Akainu's attack fall on him and then began to repair it. Akainu's brows furrowed tightly. Weibel had already evacuated, but he felt a very powerful energy locking onto him. Danger has surrounded itself. Akainu looked at Roja and thought to himself, is he going to make a move? Just when Akainu thought of this, he saw monstrous flames rising into the sky. Arrogant and terrifying spiritual pressure, like an overlord's domineering force, pressed on Akainu's body. Akainu's body couldn't help but tremble. His domineering aura seems to be stronger. It wasn't until this moment that Akainu came to his senses. Not only is he getting stronger, this guy's also getting stronger. Blood oozed from Akainu's clenched teeth. However, strong principles do not allow Akainu to escape from behind. He would rather die than succumb to evil. Thinking of this, Akainu plans to fight to the death. Awakening Meteor Volcano! I saw that the clouds in the sky turned into extremely transparent, flaming clouds. The fruit's ability begins to affect the surrounding weather. The fiery breath kept pressing down from the sky. Akainu used his fruit ability to the extreme. Let you take a look at the results of my continuous training over the past few days. The Fruit Awakening. As Akainu finished speaking, a large number of meteorites and sparks suddenly condensed in the sky. These meteorites and sparks seemed to have turned into giant fists of lava, falling towards O'Hara. Seeing this scene, the retreating naval soldiers were completely stunned. They didn't expect that Akainu hadn't used all his strength just now. No wonder he dared to be so confident that he wanted to challenge two mysterious people on his own. This horrific attack is too exaggerated. It's obviously a large-scale attack, but the energy contained in each giant lava fist feels so amazing. If it were Akainu now, he should be able to fight one against two. The Navy soldiers had gradually moved away from O'Hara, and they could only feel the hot breath in the sky. They did not feel the terrifying coercion exuded by Roja, otherwise they would not have said this. The corners of Roja's mouth, hidden under the cloak, were slightly raised, and the flames gradually subsided, only to see I saw Luya raising the flowing blade high like fire. At this time, the peak realm of the great swordsman also began to appear. Without any unnecessary movements, just holding the Ryuken Wakahara in his hand, Roja gently swung the Zanpakutō down, cut it off with one knife. The strong wind rose. The blade cut through the air, and the sound of cutting through the air lingered harshly. The flames that made the air elusive continued to devour the surrounding heat. Moment! The world changes color. All the fire clouds were swallowed up by this sky-reaching slash. Whenever it touches, Rocha's giant lava fist that slashes will also turn into food for the slash. Chi. The slash slashed across the sea surface, evaporating a large amount of seawater. Like a crescent moon, it rushed towards Akainu. The bright and sharp slashes made everyone's expression change. The soldiers on the sea stared blankly at the slash in front of them. It was only then that they felt the terrifying pressure. They only felt that their whole bodies had become extremely stiff. But this is just residual power. When it comes to feelings, Akainu feels it the most strongly. He just felt that every cell in his body was suppressed. Seeing his own skills being eaten away by Roja's slashes in the blink of an eye, Akainu's heart completely fell to the bottom. Can't beat it. He is no match for Roja. Just wait for death. Akainu clasped his hands tightly. If he was given another chance, he would treat himself even more cruelly and strive to become stronger. But he had no chance. Boom. There was a loud bang. Roja's slash hit Akainu's body. Even Akainu, who had eaten rockberry berries, could not offset the terrifying high temperature. He could even feel that his fruit had no effect at all in front of this slash. It's like being suppressed by a superior fruit. Whoa, whoa, whoa. The aftermath of the explosion and the strong winds whipped up the waves. Even a terrifying tsunami formed. Quick, quick, turn the rudder and turn the power to the maximum. Don't be affected by the tsunami. But what will Lieutenant General Akainu do? What should I do? You ask me who I am. Asking how could this situation have happened if he hadn't disobeyed military orders and rushed out without testing. Now let's save our lives first. Lost. Above Ahara. The strong wind blew Rocha's cloak, whistling. Slowly put the Lubian Ruoho into the scabbard. Just listen to Luye say softly, burn the city with fire. As Roja's words fell, the shape of the slash suddenly changed. A huge fireball appeared out of thin air in front of everyone. This fireball kept pressing down, pressing on the tsunami that had risen dozens of meters and on the escaping warship. Tens of thousands of tons of seawater have been evaporated. Under this attack, the only people who were not injured were the people on Ahara. Robin and Olvia watched the sea turn into a sea of fire with indescribable shock on their faces. I don't know how long it took. The flames gradually dissipated, but there is nothing above the sea. Robin's eyes sparkled with stars. She looked at Roja excitedly and said to Roja, "Brother Roja, you are so strong. I will become as strong as you in the future." Robin has regarded Roja as his lifelong goal, in every sense. Luoya looked at Robin and said to himself, "The little girl grows up very fast. It has only been a few days, and she already has some aspects of her future."
Robin, work hard.
Did you see the flaming clouds filling the sky just now? This is a kind of awakening of fruit ability. As long as you can reach the awakening level of fruit ability, let alone the world, even if you go to the Great Channel, when we go to the New World, we will definitely be among the strong. Hearing Roja's words, Robin nodded vigorously and said, "I will definitely work harder, try to reach the stage of fruit awakening earlier." Roja was very pleased after hearing this, nodded, then turned to Olvia and said, "Weeble will be left to you. If there is any danger, just ask him to take action. But remember to make him put on the cloak." "I understand, Roka. Are you ready to leave?" "Well, time is a bit tight. I'll come find you when I have time, or you can come find me on the sea." "Brother Luya, I will definitely try to wake up as soon as possible, and then go to the sea to find you." Saying goodbye to Olivia and Robin, Rocha activated his spell ability and flew in the direction of Malin Vondo. But Rocha definitely couldn't fly back like this. After about a day, Roya found an island, bought a boat on it, and was ready to continue sailing. But even Rocha himself didn't expect that when he came to the beach, he would actually see Akainu lying on the beach in a miserable state. Akainu was covered in burns, and large areas of his body had even begun to fester and turn white. His face was also very pale, and blood was oozing slightly from the wound, but even so he showed no signs of death. Rocha came to Akainu, squatted in front of him, and used his peak medical skills to check Akainu's injuries. Akainu, do you think I should save you or not?" At this time, Rocha was in a dilemma of choice. Sitting cross-legged on the beach, Akainu wouldn't die for a while anyway, so let him think about it carefully first. In the blink of an eye, more than half an hour passed, and Rocha opened his eyes from his sleep. That's right, he accidentally fell asleep just now. After stretching, Roja stood up from the beach, patted the dust on his pants, and showed a smirk on his lips. Akainu, I hope you won't be beaten to death by me in the future. Thinking of this, Roja showed a very gentle smile, and then dragged Akainu to the boat he just bought. The peak medical skills were displayed, but Roja treated them differently this time and showed no mercy at all. According to the acupuncture points on Akainu's body, he was beaten and kicked hard. The intense pain continuously stimulated Akainu's brain again. Akainu said, "Wow," and spit out rich black blood. This black blood is all congestion accumulated in his body. After spitting out the bruises from his mouth, Akainu slowly opened his eyes. When he saw Roja's appearance, a look of relief flashed across his face. He supported himself, turned around slowly, looked up at Roja standing in front of him, and said feebly, "Roja, it turns out you are still alive. Was it you who saved me? Otherwise, apart from me, who else has the ability to save you? But I have to say that you can still survive after suffering such a serious injury. You are considered strong." Roja gave Akainu a thumbs up. A flash of gratitude flashed in Akainu's eyes. This time, thank you. Akainu was obviously thanking him for the first time, was not at all skillful. But if Akainu knew that it was Roja in front of him who had caused such serious injuries to him, would he be immediately angered to death? Thinking of this, a cunning flash appeared in Roja's eyes. Get a good rest. We are going back to Malinfando. If I don't go back, they may think I am really dead. Since the last time Akainu's commander contacted him, there has been no news from him. Even when he called back, there was no contact. Warring States sighed in his office. There are already some white hairs on his head. One can imagine how torturous these few days were for him, a newly appointed naval marshal. Dong dong dong. The office door rings. King Pheasant walked away from outside. Aokiji belongs to the Dove faction, and it can even be said that Aokiji has been a member of the Dove faction since he joined the Navy. It was Sengoku and others who kept promoting him. Therefore, the conversation between them was relatively harmonious and relaxed. Shinji, how did you complete your mission? I hope it's not bad news. Oyuki looked at the slightly vicissitudes of the Warring States period and smiled bitterly. Marshal, according to my investigation, Whitebeard, Kaido, Big Mom, and Red Hair seemed to be forming the four emperors. Yonko? Warring States repeated it subconsciously. At this time, the soldiers outside delivered a newspaper to Warring States. I saw the four characters, the first establishment of the four emperors, clearly displayed on this newspaper. When Warring States finished reading the newspaper, he frowned. This is an open challenge to the Navy. It is a challenge to the majesty of the Navy. But as Sengoku finished speaking, he thought of Roja and Akainu. Nowadays, the four emperors of the New World were established. There is a mysterious organization in the world. Roja is missing, and his life or death is uncertain. If nothing happens to Akainu, he will die. The power of the Navy can be said to be an unprecedented weakening. Even if the Warring States period was called a wise general, he still had more than enough ambition, but not enough power. But at this moment, Sengoku's phone rang. Brumura, Warring States sighed, looked at the phone bug, and said in a low voice, I hope it won't be bad news again. After picking up the phone, before Zengo could speak, he heard an extremely excited voice coming from the other side of the phone. Master Marshal, By General Baigay and Lieutenant General Akainu are back. Because he was so excited, the person on the other side of the phone felt like he couldn't even speak. But I have to say that the impact of this news is really too strong. Even Warring States himself was stunned for a moment, and then became ecstatic after realizing what he was doing. What did you say? Shurgen and Akainu are back. Yes, Marshal Sama, Baigay seems to be fine at all, but Akainu's injury is relatively serious. Warring States breathed a sigh of relief. Just come back! Without any hesitation, Sengoku immediately arranged a top-notch medical team to treat Akainu. Wait until Akainu recovers from his injuries before punishing Akainu for his actions. Now, Warring States just said to the phone bug, line up, welcome! At this time, the entire Malinfando started to move. Sengoku did not forget to inform Khalifa. Khalifa, who had just joined CP9, immediately asked for leave and rushed towards the port of Marine Vando. Zepha, who had almost recovered, had a seafloor stone mechanical arm installed on his right hand and followed the Warring States period to the port. Accompanying him were the naval interns who were rescued by Roja. In their eyes, Roja is their hero. Roja drove the ship. He bought and watched the soldiers on Marine Vondo with their heads held high, waiting for his arrival. A very gentle smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Then he and Akainu walked off the boat. The moment Akainu came down, he was taken away by the medical team. Roja was left alone, enjoying the attention of everyone. I have to say that the difference in treatment is quite big. Warring States came forward. He was in high spirits and showed no trace of the decadence he had just shown. Warring States looked Roja up and down and said, "Are you okay?" "It's okay, I just forgot to bring the phone bug." And then the island was destroyed. When I came back, I picked up an Akainu, which was a little troublesome. When Warring States heard what Roja said, he said, "Good," 3 times in a row. Then he patted Roja hard on the shoulder and then said loudly, "Soldiers, let us use the warmest voice to welcome General White Dove back to Malinfando. Welcome General White Pigeon to return to Malinfando. Welcome General White Pigeon to return to Malinfando. Welcome General White Pigeon to return to Malinfando." I heard these soldiers shouting Roja's title louder every time. Within a moment, Roja's name was echoing in the sky above the entire Marineland. At this time, a beautiful figure flashed. He jumped into Roja's arms very quickly. Khalifa looked at Roja's face and felt that her tears seemed to be out of her control. "Royal, that's great. You're okay. You're really okay." Khalifa hugged Roja tightly, as if she wanted to integrate herself into Roja's body. At this moment, another beautiful figure came to Roja's side. This figure is Tina. When she first saw the man she admired standing in front of her, she was very excited, even though she was calm. When Warring States saw this scene, the corner of his mouth twitched faintly. How to say. Although Roja was able to come back without any injuries, Sengoku was very happy, but seeing the scene in front of him, Warring States could only complain in his heart. It should be said that he is handsome, but he is attractive. Not just the Warring States period. Even the soldiers next to him felt envious and jealous when they saw the scene in front of them. You know, Khalifa and Tina are both top beauties in the eyes of naval soldiers. It was these 2 beauties who were surrounding Roja at this time, which caused their hearts to suffer a major blow. But this is not the end. Zifa, who was behind the Warring States period, brought aim to Roja. After pretending to cough, Zifa looked at Roja and said, "General White Pigeon, it's hard to repay your life-saving grace. You can come to me wherever you want. Wherever you want, I'm duty-bound to go to the mountains of swords and seas of fire." As Zifa finished speaking, all the Navy soldiers were in an uproar. They didn't expect that Zifa would actually say these words to Roja. You know, Zifa was one of the previous generals. Now he is also the strongest instructor in the Navy headquarters and has a large amount of naval resources in his hands. This sentence has too many meanings. Teacher Zifa, you are joking. Whitebeard II is a very vicious pirate. It is our duty to uphold justice. Hearing Roja's words, Warring States on the side sighed, because he thought of Akainu. Akainu has always upheld absolute justice, but he does not have the strength of Roja. Therefore, it can only end up like that. Royal, let's go back and talk. It's better for you to take a rest first. Let's go to your office first, Marshal. I'll report the mission first. Oh, by the way, if possible, can you reimburse me for the cost of buying the ship? At this time, everyone also left the port of Malinfando and came to Sengoku's office. In the Sengoku office, Roja made up a little bit about what happened. That is to say, after you destroyed the island, you beat Weibel into the sea, and then used the moon step to finally find an island, and met Akainu, by the way, and then came back, right? Roja nodded and held Khalifa in his arms. As for Tina, she looked at Khalifa with envy. Although during these days, her relationship with Khalifa had become very close, and they even became best friends. But here in Roja, they are still in a competitive relationship. Now, seeing Khalifa enjoying herself so much and nestling in Roja's arms, she was also very envious. Warring States bowed his head in thought. He suddenly thought that when Akainu's commander reported to him, he mentioned that one of the mysterious people was as big as a hill and had a terrifying self-healing ability. Warring States looked at Roja and told Roja the news seriously. Although Roja personally took the lead in this matter, he still pretended to hear it for the first time. The expression on Roja's face gradually turned serious. The atmosphere, the office, gradually became tense. After thinking about what he wanted to eat for a long time, Roja replied to Warring States, "I think that mysterious man is not Whitebeard II because the time is wrong. You must know that even the speed of a general-class warship is too fast. It can't be achieved so fast. It doesn't match up at all in terms of time. In addition, I think those two mysterious people are definitely organized, and they definitely leaked information. Hearing Roja's words, Warring States was stunned. He didn't understand why Roja said that. For the first time, he felt that his IQ was not enough. Roja explained again, Marshal, think about it. Even if Akainu launched the attack without testing first, they wouldn't have come so fast. They would have been waiting for him right next to the island. What does this mean? It means they have got the news a long time ago. After hearing Roja's words, Warring States fell into deep thought again. You mean there's a mole in the Navy? The more Warring States thought about it, the more it seemed very possible. On Haiyan Island, when he rescued his adopted son, Corazon, the Warring States period learned from Corazon about the existence of the Navy mole Virgo and imprisoned him in a deep-sea prison as quickly as possible. Nowadays, there's another mole in the Navy, and this mole seems to be in a high position. Warring States has reason to believe it. Just thinking about how powerful this organization was, Warring States felt that the sea was going to be in chaos. Roja, it's a good thing that you exist in the Navy. Otherwise, we would really have more than enough ambition, but not enough power. This is what I should do. Roja said calmly, Okay, Roja, I will investigate the mole's matter. You can go and rest first. It won't be long before we are completely busy. Warring States felt that Roja really needed a rest, so he said to Roja. Roja nodded and exited Sengoku's office. Just when he turned around, the corners of Roja's mouth turned up in a subtle arc. This arc was not seen by anyone. Walking on the land of Melon Fando, looking at the endless sky, Roja was in a very good mood. Because of his identity, he became even more unshakable. No one would have thought that Roja, as General White Pigeon, also had the identity of a mysterious person. Royal, you seem very happy. Khalifa took Roja's arm and said to Roja, Roja held Khalifa beside him in his arms and chuckled, Of course I am very happy because I can see you. Khalifa was happy, but she still didn't hide it from Roja that she had joined CP9. Roja, I want to continue to hone my strength and I will be the one to protect you in the future. Looking at Khalifa's appearance, Roja just smiled slightly and didn't say much. He supported Khalifa's dream. Then the two of them strolled and returned to Roja's room. A night of silence. Early the next morning, Khalifa left the room. A strong person at their level. It's just like tearing a hole. It can be restored in the blink of an eye. Just when Roja was about to take another nap, his phone rang. Marshal, what do you want from me? By day. Come here. Good. On the second day after returning to Marinland, Roja came to Sengoku's office again. As soon as he walked into Sengoku's office, he heard Sengoku say to him, Baige, I should let you rest for a while, but now the new world is in chaos. The 4 emperors have been established, and Big Mom has sent out a message. The first tea party is about to be held. Therefore, in order to cope with their momentum, we passed the decision of the Shichibukai. We want you to go to Fishman Island first and invite Taisha Jinbei. Ding! Release the check-in mission. Fishman Island. Reward, the peak of knowledge and sex. Time, 3 days. Hearing what Warring States said, Roja nodded with a smile on his lips and said, Marshal, I promise to complete the mission. Seeing Roja turning around and leaving very happily, Roja's status in Warring States' heart became a little higher. At the same time, he also thought of Roja's current fame. He couldn't help but sigh, Shinji, if you don't work hard, the future position of Marshal will probably be taken away by Lo Ya. As soon as he walked out of Sengoku's office, Roja met Zepha and Ain. Teacher Zepha, how are you feeling? Roja said hello to Zepha. Zepha subconsciously touched it and found that he had been transformed into a mechanical right hand. He only said, if it weren't for you this time, I would have been killed by Whitebeard II. Zepha said again, Baige, are you going to summon the Shichibukai? Well, that's the order the Marshal just gave. The Navy is really getting more and more alive and it actually wants to cooperate with pirates. Zepha added, Hey, but I can't say anything now. I am now considered retired. Hearing Zepha's words, Roja was a little surprised. Teacher Zepha, are you planning to return to your hometown to retire? What about your students? I have arranged for the other students. Among the other places, only Ain has been insisting and wants to study with you, so I brought her here to find you. As Zepha finished speaking and took a step forward, When he came to Luaya, he gave a military salute to Luaya and said crisply, "General Beige, please allow me to study by your side, please." With that said, Ain bowed deeply to Roja. At this time, Zifa also said in a timely manner, "Baige, Ain has a very good talent. Not only is her fruit ability powerful, but she also has her own understanding of the way of swordsmanship. Now she has reached the peak level of a swordsman. I believe in a short time, you will be able to reach the level of a first-time great swordsman, and it will be no problem to use it to deal with small people." Roja finally understood. Zifa came here to promote his students. However, due to its own reasons, the Navy did not invite Whitebeard II to become the Shichibukai. After all, Whitebeard II was already dead in the eyes of Sengoku and others. So this also led Zifa to not leave the Navy directly and go out to establish a new Navy, but to retire directly and return to work. Since Teacher Zifa has said so, I have no reason to refuse. But let's talk about the ugly things first. I cannot accept people who are self-righteous. As long as you are obedient, I will teach you what I know. Half of this sentence was said to Zifa, and the other half was said to Aang. Aang was obviously mentally prepared, and without any hesitation, Aang nodded in agreement. In this case, get ready to leave immediately. We will leave immediately. After saying these words, Roja turned to Zifa and said, "Teacher Zifa, I have a mission. I will leave first. Go, go!" Seeing Roja disappear from his sight, Zifa sighed in his heart and said, "Baige, if you can become the Marshal of the Navy, will this sea be calmer?" Thinking of this, Zifa shook his head and turned to leave. Roja and Anan, after getting ready, they arrived on the Admiral-class warship and sailed towards Fishman Island. They need to go to the Shampoo Islands and get coated before they can go to Fishman Island. But coating is a very troublesome thing. There are only 3 days in total, and Roja must seize every minute and every second. 100-turn Phantom? On the warship, Roja directly created 100 Phantoms under Roja's control. These Phantoms controlled the warship in an orderly manner and sailed towards the Chambord Islands. And he was obviously following Roja for the first time. When she saw these 100 Phantoms, her whole body was stunned. General White Pigeon, in informal situations, just call me Luya. In fact, I am a very easy to get together person in private. Looking at Roja's gentle smile, Aang nodded vigorously. Luya, what do I need to do now? You don't have to do anything. Just follow me. When I need you to do something, I will tell you. As for what I teach you, how much you can learn depends on your own talent. Yes, Aang responded. On the sea, a general-class warship rides the wind and waves. Soon, Roja and Aang arrived at the Shampoo Islands. After all, marine land is relatively close to the Chambord Islands. This is Roya's first visit to the Chambord Islands. It is said that there are many interesting things in the Chambord Islands. Luoya decided to wait until one day when he had time, and he must come over and have a good time. Look over there. Wow, that woman is so pretty. This is absolutely beautiful. Idiot, I'm not telling you to look at that woman, but the man next to that woman. What's so good about a man? Wait, that's General Beige. It's Admiral White Dove of the Navy. Why is General Beige here? Hiding his identity, the pirates on the Chambord Islands were frightened to death when they saw the presence of the White Pigeon. They all subconsciously escaped from Baige's sight. They are very familiar with the famous name of Baige. Especially recently, the news that the Whitebeard II was killed was missed, under the control of the Navy. Let more people know how powerful the Navy is at this time. It was saved, but Akainu's failure had a bad impact on the Navy. While walking on the Shampoo Islands, the corner of Roja's mouth twitched. Aang, do I look scary? You won't run away when you see me. You know, who can survive in the Chambord Islands without any strength? You shouldn't be scared away by him. Aang looked at Roja. His face was like a knife, and his pretty face was slightly rosy for some reason. It's not that scary. And thought to himself at the same time, he's also very handsome. Hey, maybe they are jealous of my appearance. After Roja said this, he added, Aang, you can go shopping as you like. I will go find the coding craftsman. This kind of thing is still... Before I could finish speaking, Roja's figure disappeared from front of Aang. Let Aang swallow the second half of the sentence. With his body flashing rapidly, Roja came to a bar called Shi Qi's Ripoff Bar after constant inquiries. Sha Shi, who was smoking in the bar, frowned slightly. She looked at Luya, who came in from the outside, and was shocked. White Pigeon, why is he here? Although Shachi was shocked, she didn't reveal any clues and just said, "Is Laylee here?" As Roja's words fell, a harsh voice sounded in the bar. That was the sound of the glass falling to the ground and breaking into pieces. The already tense atmosphere became even more solemn at this time. Sheshai reacted quickly, smiled coquettishly, and said, "Hey, when people get old, they are no longer useful. Although I look young, I am actually 60 years old. By the way, what did you just say?" Roja smiled slightly and said again, "I want to ask if Rayleigh is there. It's the vice captain of the Pirate King, Pluto Rayleigh." Shakia's heart was shocked. "Those who are good will not come, and those who come will be unkind." She only felt that Luya's smile was like that insidious, poisonous snake dormant there for a long time, waiting for its prey to appear. But Shachi is also a genius. At this time, she will never admit that Pluto Rayleigh lives here. That Pirate King's deputy captain Pluto Rayleigh? I have indeed heard of this name, but I've never seen him in person, and I don't even know where he is now. General, did you make a mistake somewhere? Just as Shachi finished saying this, hearty laughter sounded outside the tavern. "Is this a guest?" "Welcome." Hear sounds coming from outside. Chiachi felt very speechless. Normally I come back so late. It happened to be today, so you came back so early. Was that intentional? Thinking of this, Shadachi stopped pretending, pointing directly at the white-haired old man who had just walked into the tavern. He said, "He is Pluto Rayleigh. Find him." After saying that, Yakshi was minding her own business, took out a lady's cigarette, lit it, and the smoke slowly rose. Roga turned around and looked at Rayleigh. I saw that he had long curly hair and a beard on his chin. His beard and hair were both silver. He wore glasses and had a straight scar on his right eye. "It looks tough, but it doesn't feel gloomy at all, but a bit sunny." Riley looked at Roja, who was wearing a robe of justice, and casually placed the tools in his hands on the bar. Riley looked at Roja and said, with a smile, "Admiral Gay of the Navy, what's the matter with you? A bad old man like me. You don't want to take me back, do you? If I were to arrest you, I wouldn't be the only one here today. And besides me, no one else knows that Pluto Rayleigh actually works as a coding craftsman in the Chainboard Islands. You don't just want to come here and chat with me, do you?" A look of curiosity flashed across the eyes of Li and Shachi. They also knew the name of General Gay very well. Naturally, we know that Admiral Gay is one of the Navy's top combat forces, but when it comes to fame, it even surpasses the existence of the other two generals. Of course not. To make a long story short, I want you to help me code it and finish it within a day. Hearing Roja's words, Pluto Rayleigh said subconsciously, "Is it that simple? Otherwise, what do you think I came here to do?" Roja said to Pluto Rayleigh with a smile on his lips. Pluto Rayleigh looked into Roja's eyes and kept thinking about Roja's true purpose. But after thinking about it, I didn't get the answer. So Lily said again, "Aren't you afraid that I will mess with the coding and let you be buried in the sea? You know, we are in an antagonistic relationship. If that were the case, you wouldn't be called Pluto Rayleigh." After the words fell, Leilai's eyes showed an extremely sharp look. Suddenly, the two people laughed loudly. Lily immediately said to Shaq, "Give back a glass of wine too. I'll treat you. You already owe me more than 10,000 berries. How can you pay for the drinks?" Isn't this General Beige? You know, if you want to code it within one day, it is very expensive. It's okay, Marshall will reimburse me for the money. Roga said and sat down next to Lily. Had a great time chatting with Raleigh here. Chambord Islands. Island number 1. Population auction venue. Doflamingo was on the top floor, overlooking the auction below. He frowned, and his body exuded a cold feeling. "Have you found the accurate information about the results of the operation?" "Young master, we didn't find it. This fruit seemed to have evaporated out of thin air, leaving no trace at all." Torval said next to Doflamingo. Ever since the surgical fruits were snatched away by the mysterious man on Haiyan Island, he had become even more angry. Although the mysterious man's strength continues to shock the world, Doflamingo is still unwilling to give up. As long as that mysterious man doesn't reveal the power of the surgery, so many flamencos won't give up. As long as he is given a chance, he will take the fruits of the operation into his own hands, even if he pays a heavy price. He will never run away like he did last time. This will be a lifelong shame for him. Even because of this incident, his prestige in the underground world was almost lost. This made Doflamingo hate this mysterious man even more. Continue to investigate for me and find out everything I can about the organization this mysterious man belongs to. Okay, young master. The rebel finished speaking and was about to leave. But at this moment, several men rushed in from outside in a panic. Young master, it's not good. It's not good. The slave we just captured was kidnapped by a Navy woman. Navy woman, what's going on? The Flamingo, who was furious, heard his men's words, and his anger was suddenly ignited. We had just returned from capturing slaves and had already arrived in Area 1, but one of the bitches named Stella actually escaped from the cage and happened to meet a Navy man. Then all the slaves who had just been captured, they were all detained by her. Trash. Since the slave is lost, you don't have to live anymore. Doflamingo bent his fingers and flicked out a thread. The tough thread cut through the air, whistling and cutting off the heads of those useless subordinates. The head fell to the ground, and blood spread all over the floor, like a fountain. Let me clean it up. Let's go see which Navy dares to seize my goods. With a frosty expression on his face, Doflamingo led Torobol towards Area 1. Human trafficking is very common in the Shampoo Islands. There is even a human auction house run by Doflamingo, but this does not mean that this is a formal industry. Once discovered by the Navy, it will still be deducted. However, since Doflamingo became a joker in the underground world, no one has dared to touch his goods. If it is not handled well this time, Doflamingo promises that this kind of thing will happen more and more in the future. After all, none of those guys in the underground world are easy to get along with. The other side. Ain helps Stella up from the ground. Use the katana at your waist to cut off all their bracelets and anklets. Are you guys okay? It's okay, thank you for saving us. This is what our Navy should do. I have long heard that illegal behavior is rampant in the Chambord Islands, but I didn't expect that they would actually transport slaves in broad daylight under the clear sky. I can never condone this kind of behavior. You can't be forgiven. Doflamingo had already arrived at the scene at this time, and happened to see Ain liberating these slaves. There was even more anger in his heart. His forehead was already covered with veins. The eyes hidden under the orange-red sunglasses looked at Ain in front of him fiercely. Ain saw Doflamingo appear in front of him. His face was stern, and he looked heroic. She protected Stella and others behind her, holding a sharp sword, and slashed at Doflamingo. He said, "With righteousness, we cannot forgive anyone who commits a crime." Doflamingo looked at Ain in front of him with unspeakable anger in his heart. At this time, there were more and more people around. Anyone who has lived in the Chambord Islands for a long time knows Doflamingo before them. As for the Ain in front of Doflamingo, he had no reputation at all. He looked like a Marine taking a leave of absence. In the Chambord Islands, the accidental disappearance of a few navies would not attract attention at all. This woman is so beautiful, but she doesn't have a very good mind. Yeah, you dare to provoke Doflamingo. You really don't know how to live or die. You know, Doflamingo is the joker of the underground world. Not only the underground industry of the Shampoo Islands, but also various industries in the New World. The Flamingo has a hand in it. I heard the onlookers whispering around. Ain's expression did not change, and he looked at the person in front of him with a stern expression. I don't care who you are, but since you appear in front of me, I must bring you to justice. Foo, 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 foo. This is simply the funniest joke I have ever heard. You want to catch me even with your strength? I happen to be in a bad mood right now, so I will ask you to die. Before Doflamingo could finish speaking, a voice suddenly came from the crowd, interrupting Doflamingo's words. Doflamingo, this is the Chambord Islands. If you dare to attack the Navy, you will definitely be punished. A man wearing pink floral clothes walked out of the crowd. When Ain saw this person, he was stunned and said subconsciously, "Benz, why are you here?" Benz protected Ain behind him and said, "I was assigned here by Teacher Zepha, and I happen to be on duty today." After saying that, Ben stared at Doflamingo tightly. The veins on Doflamingo's forehead popped out. "I see hatred in your eyes. I guess your parents were killed by me too." After hearing Doflamingo's words, Binz forced himself to calm down and said, 10 years ago, on my birthday, you brought your family members to our island. Except for me, the people on the island, even my parents, died tragically in your hands. Doflamingo sneered. Fuh. This is not the first time this has happened, so since they are all dead, you should go down and be buried with them. As he finished speaking, Doflamingo kicked his foot. In the blink of an eye, he rushed towards Bins before Bins could react. He felt a pain in his abdomen as if his internal organs had been displaced, and he took a breath of air. See, he didn't expect that Doflamingo would actually dare to take action. You must hate me very much. If it weren't for your lack of strength, you would have pounced on me. Doflamingo's fingers were slightly bent, and a white but extremely tough thread appeared between his fingers. Doflamingo laughed wildly. On this sea, the weak eat the strong. You are weak and I am strong, so you are destined to be killed by me. As he spoke, Doflamingo used the thread in his hand to pull Bins down without mercy. At this critical moment, Amy sent out a slash and slash towards Doflamingo. It's just a small thing. Are all the Navy useless like you? Bounced the thread. Doflamingo raised his fingers and retracted his other fingers, and the thin lines created between his fingers were fired at high speed like a gun. It was this thread that looked like it could break at the first touch, whizzing and shattering in the air. Ainan's slash... The slash was shattered, and Doflamingo's thread continued unabated. Ain's pupils shrank suddenly. She wanted to use Shave to escape, but there were many civilians behind her. Once she retreats, those civilians will be injured, so she cannot retreat. Subconsciously, Ain closed his eyes. But the imagined pain did not appear. I heard a deafening sound erupting around me. Ain opened his eyes and looked in front of him. I saw Roy wearing a cloak of justice with armed domineering energy attached to his hands, easily crushing Doflamingo's bullet string. The sudden appearance of the white dove shocked everyone, except for the people who just saw Ain and Roja together. The rest of the people didn't even know that Roja's current adjutant was Ain. Roja looked at Doflamingo, not far away with a gentle smile on his lips. Compared with Doflamingo's smile, this smile was either cold or hot, completely at two extremes. First meeting, Doflamingo. Roja said calmly to Doflamingo. Although Rokia's tone was very calm, the people around him obviously heard the dissatisfaction in Rokia's tone. What's more, what about Doflamingo? By gay. I didn't expect that I would meet you here. Doflamingo thought it would be better to take a step back. After all, he could feel the power of the white pigeon in front of him just from its faint aura. This made Doflamingo not dare to be too arrogant. Bitch, I only want my slave. If you hand the slave over to me, I can pretend that nothing happened today. But for Doflamingo's intentional concession, Roja didn't intend to just let him go. Did you say that you just pretended that nothing happened? The corners of Roy's eyes were crooked, and his whole person looked more kind. He felt warm in his heart. She could see that Roja was obviously trying to stand up for herself. What do you mean by this? Doflamingo's whole body tensed up. He really didn't expect that he would meet Baigay here. Those guys from the intelligence department will definitely kill them all when he returns. They are a bunch of useless guys. Even something as important as the general's landing on the island was not told to him. It doesn't mean anything. I just heard you say, isn't this world a place where the weak eat the strong? You are weak and I am strong, so you are destined to be killed by me. Doflamingo was very familiar with this sentence. Isn't that what he said just now? But what he didn't expect was that Roja would actually use his words to tell him. This suddenly touched Doflamingo's anger. There was no breeze at this time in the Chambord Islands. The atmosphere is getting hotter and hotter. Cold sweat broke out on many people's foreheads. Why do I have a bad feeling? Me too. Why don't we stay a little further away? Yes, that makes sense. The people around them stepped back while paying attention to Roja and Doflamingo. I wonder if the two of them will fight like this. Just at this time. At this moment. Doflamingo moved. Because he has already felt the real murderous intention in Roja. This murderous intention was first felt even as the underground emperor. He shuddered subconsciously. So thinking about this, Doflamingo decided to strike first. Super hit whip. Doflamingo first stretched his palm back, and dozens of almost transparent thin threads spurted out from his palm, and then entangled these threads together. A thick line like hair was formed. Then let this line column stretch as far back as possible, and then stretch it back to hit Roja in front. The action looks cumbersome, but Doflamingo has developed the thread fruit to a certain level These actions were completed almost in the blink of an eye. I saw Doflamingo's super whip mixed with the power of breaking through the air, attacking Roja. The strong cutting ability cuts the air at this time, making a whistling sound. Everything happened so fast. The people around him didn't even realize what Doflamingo had done. They saw that the thread pillar had arrived in front of Roja, shaking his head slightly. Roja's hands were filled with armed domineering energy without hesitation. As soon as the peak of his armed domination was revealed, Doflamingo's heart suddenly trembled. His pupils shrank suddenly. Bang. As if catching a sword with his bare hands, Roja blocked Doflamingo's super whip with ease. This is not over yet! The light flashed in Roja's eyes. One of the top 6 styles, shaving, launch. His feet quickly hit the ground, leading Roja directly to Doflamingo. The speed was so fast that Doflamingo didn't even react. Roja's dark palm was seen rapidly enlarging in Doflamingo's field of vision. Grabbing Doflamingo's face, he lifted his entire body up. Then it hit the ground hard. Boom, boom, boom. Already far away from their melon-eating masses. I saw Roja grabbing Doflamingo's head and slamming it on the ground. Every hard blow would leave a huge crater. The ground has been completely damaged. Then he hit Doflamingo's head on the ground mercilessly. And Roja smiled and said, "You haven't forgotten your identity as a pirate, have you? As a naval admiral, I won't let you. If I was caught, I would be embarrassed myself." After a few more hits in succession, Doflamingo endured the violent dizziness and stretched out his arm with great effort, holding Roja tightly. Roja took a look at Doflamingo. The next second, Doflamingo suddenly released his Overlord-colored domineering energy. The Overlord's domineering energy suddenly swept the entire place with Doflamingo. As the center, the terrifying pressure directly pressed on everyone's hearts. They felt as if they were hallucinating. Countless ferocious beasts surrounded them, leaving them unable to resist this will. They fell to the ground one after another, piled on top of each other. Faced with Doflamingo's Overlord-colored haki, Roja didn't do much. He just released his own spiritual pressure that was very similar to Overlord-colored haki, protecting Aang behind him. He looked at the people around him and fainted under this momentum. He was also very shocked. She could feel Roja's care for her. Otherwise, if she thought about it now, she would be lying on the ground in a very embarrassed state. "Oh, are you angry? Your aura is pretty good, but that's all. I'll show you what it means to be truly domineering and domineering." As Roja's words fell, Roja slowly closed his eyes and then stared. In an instant, the huge spiritual pressure, like a domineering king, was completely pressed on Doflamingo's body. Roja's spiritual pressure even caused the surrounding space to become slightly distorted. The Shampoo Islands, which were originally dry, dull, and hot, also ushered in a large cloud at this time. The entire sky seemed to have split open out of thin air, which made people feel horrified. Doflamingo stared at the sky blankly, feeling the aura on Roja's body. Subconsciously said, "How is this possible? How is this possible? This is absolutely impossible. Why do this guy have the unique domineering power, and moreover, you are so powerful?" Doflamingo thought of the mysterious man he met on Haiyan Island. At that time, he also felt such a huge and terrifying spiritual pressure, which was a very aggressive Overlord-colored domineering force. Regarding the cultivation of Overlord's haki, in Doflamingo's opinion, he has definitely reached a certain level. However, Doflamingo did not notice the heat of fire in Roja's domineering aura. Otherwise, Doflamingo would even think that Roja was actually the mysterious person on Haiyan Island. However, Roja did not give Doflamingo a chance to think more. The corner of Roja's mouth smiled even more. Using his legs, Roja grabbed Doflamingo's head in his hands and rushed out like a cannonball. "Doflamingo, have you ever heard of casting on Earth?" Before Doflamingo could react, he knew what was going on. He only felt a strong force coming from him. He fell towards the ground at a faster speed than when he came. Boom! This sound can not only be heard by people in one area, but also by people in the entire Chambord Islands. I saw Doflamingo's head being inserted directly into the ground. The ground began to crack inch by inch, and the cracks continued to grow larger. There is constant dust and fine sand left in it. As his strength disappeared, Doflamingo's body fell limply. Slowly coming down from the sky, Roja came to Ain's side and said softly, "Report the situation here to the marshal and ask him to send people to arrest people and imprison Doflamingo to the bottom of the sea, in the big prison." After Warring States got the news about Aini, he felt bad. He smiled bitterly and seemed to be very troubled, because Sengoku knew Doflamingo's true identity. This guy was a celestial dragon before. Even if his father left on his own initiative, Doflamingo's bloodline could not be erased. But fortunately, Roja didn't know the news. It just so happens that he who doesn't know is not guilty. However, what Warring States didn't know was that all of this was under Roja's control. Otherwise, Roja would not have directly pinched Doflamingo's mouth in the first moment of the battle, not giving him a chance to speak. Roja didn't care at all about how to deal with Doflamingo's affairs after the Warring States period. Anyway, if Doflamingo wants to figure it out, he will definitely have to pay a lot of price. At this time, Roja's matter was gradually fermenting. Everyone's impression of Roja is that he is extremely protective of his shortcomings, very powerful, and cannot be messed with. In particular, Pluto Rayleigh and Shachi had a clear understanding of Baigai's strength. Rayleigh is very sensitive to capturing breath. Although Roja focused his spiritual pressure on Doflamingo, Rayleigh was still aware of the terrifying domineering aura. General Baigai, he is really an amazing talent. At the same age, even Roger would not be able to reach his current level. Thinking of this, Rayleigh shook his head. Without thinking anymore, he started his own coding project. After all, he is just a very ordinary coding craftsman now, and he also promised to complete the coding within 1 day. Time is really tight. Roja woke up these slaves one by one, took them to the base of the Chambord Islands, and began to investigate one by one. Planned to send them all back to their hometown. These slaves began to register one by one, and soon it was Stella's turn. Ain looked at the woman with beautiful blonde hair in front of him and was very impressed. It was precisely because she escaped from those cages covered with cloth. Ain had just discovered these slaves, otherwise he would not have saved them. Aiden couldn't even imagine what the future life waiting for them would be like. "Stella, where is your hometown?" Aeon held a pen in his hand and said concernedly to Stella. Stella's expression darkened, tears welled up in her eyes, and she slowly shook her head. "I have no hometown. I have been a slave since I was born." From the moment you are born, you are a slave. In other words, there is a great possibility that Stella's parents were also slaves. Aeon felt a little sorry for Stella. She turned to face Roja, who was dozing off to the side, and asked, "Lord Roja, Stella..." Before Ain could finish what he said, Roja stood up from his seat, came to Stella's side, chuckled at Stella, and said, "Stella, if you can, we are still short of a chef on the ship, and I would like to invite you to be our chef. Would you like to?" Stella didn't hesitate when she heard Roya's invitation. He nodded excitedly and said, "Yes, very willing." After receiving Stella's reply, Roja smiled and said, "Then please give me more advice in the future." "Please give me more advice, Beige." "Like Anne, just call me Roja." Stella's pretty face turned red when she heard Roja's words. He nodded subconsciously and said, "Yeah." Time passed quickly, and I slept for a day at the naval base in the Shampoo Islands. Roja brought Ain and Stella to the rip-off bar. And then Stella didn't know Riley. They only thought he was an ordinary coding craftsman. "This is your Raleigh. Thank you for your hard work. Please help me complete the coding project within 1 day." Admiral-class warships are very large, not small at all. To say it is a project is not an exaggeration at all. Riley laughed out loud when he heard Roja calling him an old man. Ha ha ha. "It's an honor for me to be able to coat the general."
Master Luya, this old man feels completely different from other old men. In terms of mental aspect, he is far ahead of his peers.
Hearing En's words, Stella on the side nodded seriously. In response to this, Roja complained in his heart, "Of course, this is Pluto Rayleigh. Even with its current strength, it cannot be underestimated." Everyone boarded the warship, and Stella looked at such a big warship and couldn't help showing a surprised look. She and Ain are almost the same age, so they need to get along better. She subconsciously asked Ain, "Ain, do you usually drive the warship alone? This is too awesome." Ain shook his head and said, "No, Master Roja's fruit ability is not only weird, but also very practical." As if to verify Ain's words, Roja gently snapped his fingers. I saw 100 phantoms that looked exactly like Roja appearing on the general class warship. Stella showed an extremely shocked expression when she saw this scene in front of her. Looking at Stella's expression, Aang also roughly thought of what his original expression was. Okay, everyone, let's set off and try to reach Fishman Island within 2 days. At this time, the system prompt time has changed from 3 days to 2 days. Under the control of these 100 phantoms, the warship began to gradually sink into the sea. The seawater gradually enveloped the warship. The huge warship began to slowly dive. The darkness gradually swallowed them up. Stella and Aang are both girls. There is some resistance to darkness. Therefore, Roja directly turned on all the lights on the warship. The light can illuminate a certain distance. What catches everyone's eyes is the increasingly colorful and gorgeous world. Wow, what kind of fish is that? Looks so kawaii. Yes, I didn't expect it to be so interesting under the seawater. It looks really mysterious. Roja stood on the deck and looked at the surrounding ocean through the coating. A smile on his lips never stopped. This was also his first time coming underwater. Regarding the unique species in the ocean and the existence of Neptune's species, Roja instantly thought of White Star. If there was a chance, he would like to visit Baixing and see if he could have a good relationship with Baixing. You must know that in this world full of seas, the existence of Neptune is really invincible. Time passes, minute by second. Everyone gradually calmed down from the excitement at the beginning. At this time, Stella also came to the kitchen of the warship. Stella is very confident in her cooking skills because her talent in this area is really great. No matter what cuisine it is, you can draw inferences from one instance and reach its peak at the same time. In Luya's words, it was a treasure found. Soon, a delicious meal with delicious taste and flavor appeared in everyone's sight. I don't know if it was because of the aroma of the dishes, but a dark phantom flashed in the distant ocean, swimming quickly towards Roya's warship. In the blink of an eye, we arrived in front of the warship. The black shadow moved quickly between gulps and puffs. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of Roja and others. Under the illumination of the warship's lights, they finally saw what kind of monster the black shadow in front of them was. It was a large squid with a length of more than 5,500 meters. The squid arm alone is more than 1,000 meters long. Stella had never seen this scene before her. His heart trembled suddenly, and he subconsciously slumped to the ground. His face turned pale. Not only Stella, but also Aang herself, was very shocked. You know, this is in the deep sea. The warship is covered with coating to keep out the seawater. But once the coating is broken, and a large amount of seawater pours in, the pressure in the deep sea alone is not something they can withstand. You know, in the eyes of Aang and Stella, Roja is a person with abilities, and once he comes into contact with a large amount of seawater, he will definitely be powerless. Master Roja, what should we do? This squid is obviously coming for us. At this time, this squid and Sea King, with a body length of terrifying 5,500 meters, was constantly observing the warship. Determine the danger to him from the warship. If it is judged that the warship is not dangerous, no need to think too much. This squid and Sea King will definitely use its strong tentacles with a diameter of tens of meters to wrap the coating, squeeze through, and then devour the warship. Seeing the expressions of Aang and Stella, Roja was not afraid at all. Controlling the phantom, he dragged the table out of the room and placed it on the deck. Then he put the delicacies prepared by Stella on the table. He said to everyone in a relaxed and comfortable manner, "Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and eat. It would be a pity if such a delicious dish gets cold." But, Stella pointed to the squid outside, her voice trembling, and even said aloud, "Lord Roja, what should we do if this guy launches an attack?" Looking at the worried two people in front of him, Roja waved his hands casually as if he didn't care at all, and said, "It's okay, just take care of it as it comes. And just think of it as this is for yourself. A kind of training in the state of mind is enough." Hearing Roja's words, Aang nodded, took a deep breath, and said softly, "Well, I understand." Then he moved the chair to the side of the table. Stella saw Aang and did the same, so she could only bite the bullet and sit next to him. It's just that Stella's mind is no longer on the food, but all on the squid. She was afraid of the squid, so she rushed forward without saying a word and punctured the coating. Once the coating is punctured, they are truly doomed. At this time, 3 different feelings filled the 3 people. Roya's senseless indifference, Aang's enforced calm, Stella's panic and fear. It permeated the warships. Roja tasted the dishes made by Stella, nodded with satisfaction, gave Stella a thumbs up, and said, "Stella, what you cook is so delicious." Stella's face was very pale. She looked at Roja, forced the corner of her mouth, and said, "Is it delicious?" "Master, Stella will be responsible in the future. Please eat more." Because Stella was too nervous, what she said was not smooth. As for the title of Master, Roja originally refused. But Stella said that it was Roja and Ain who saved her. Especially Roja. They are also equivalent to her recreated parents. In order to show her respect, Stella repeatedly insisted on calling Roja Master. In this regard, Roja had nothing to say. After all, this is Stella's own insistence. Ruka looked at Stella and couldn't help but think of a guy who called himself the Golden Emperor. However, Stella has not met Tesoro now, that is, the Golden Emperor in the future, and it is very likely that he will not appear again. Then, when Doflamingo releases the golden fruit, he can use another identity to snatch the golden fruit. Thinking of this, the corners of Roja's mouth curled up slightly. He looked at Roja with a nonchalant look and felt very admired in his heart. Although Roja did not give him any other teachings in other aspects now. But just speaking of this state of mind, it is beyond the reach of Ain. He tried hard to control his state of mind and tasted the delicious food made by Stella. However, her constantly trembling hands showed that her heart was actually not peaceful. "And do you think it's to your liking?" Roja chuckled at Ain. Well, it's delicious. The food Stella cooked is the most delicious food I have ever eaten. Naturally, Ain's state of mind cannot improve so much in a short period of time. She subconsciously looked to the side, only to see the figure of the squid rushing towards the warship. Ain's pupils shrank suddenly. At the same time, Stella, who saw the scene in front of her, could no longer control her body and screamed subconsciously. Stella's screams echoed throughout the warship. Aang's heart sank even more. Deep sea. Within the coating. Limited by various factors. From Aang's point of view, neither she nor Roja could use their full strength. There is a great possibility that they were crushed to death by the water in the deep sea. Or maybe it was swallowed into the body by the giant Neptune-like squid in front of him and became its food. But Aang didn't know that Roja, a white pigeon general, was not Roja's true strength. His true strength has never been fully used. Because so far, no one has been able to do this. This is true even for the Neptune-like squid in front of me. But Aang and Stella didn't know the confidence in Roja's heart. In their opinion, whether it is Roja's fruit ability, the 6 naval styles, or the strongest armed color, Haki, in this deep sea, there is no way to defeat the squid and Sea King in front of you. Despair enveloped them. Perhaps it is precisely because of this that the mental states of Aang and Stella achieved a breakthrough at this time. Aang looked at Roja and said softly, "Lord Roja, being able to follow you is the most correct choice in my life. If I am given another chance, I will still make this choice resolutely." Stella was no longer afraid at this time. "Master, thank you for saving me from a dark life. In my eyes, Master, you are the greatest light and everything to me. If there is an afterlife, I would like to serve you forever." Roja looked at them with a strange expression. Is it such an exaggeration? Isn't it just a Neptune-like squid that is about 5,500 meters long? Roja's words were full of ease and comfort. It fell on the ears of the two of them, making them look stunned. He looked at Roja and said, "Lord Roja," and he hesitated to speak. "You must know that this is the deep sea if you want to launch a large-scale attack. Then the coating will definitely break, and they will inevitably die. But if it were a small attack, it would be like scratching an itch for the 500-meter-long Neptune creature in front of him. The result is to be killed by it. No matter what you do, you will die." At this moment, bursts of explosions reached the warship. These explosions were caused by the squid and the Sea King type swimming towards the warship quickly. The huge body quickly squeezed a channel in the ocean, stirring up a large amount of water, resulting in the current scene. In other words, the Sea King class has arrived in front of the warship. Roja turned around and saw the squid and Sea King stretching out his huge tentacles and attacking the warship. Stella on the side could not be any whiter. "Don't worry, nothing will happen. Just leave it to me." Roja slowly got up from his seat. "When I walked to the edge of the boat, I looked calm and didn't feel panic at all." Aang and Stella's hearts were already hanging. When they were curious about how Roja would do it, they were also worried whether Roja would damage the coating. At this time, the atmosphere was very depressing. The huge squid and Sea King had already stretched out its whiskers and came to the front of the warship. It was about to touch the coating when its whiskers were about to touch. Roja slowly closed his eyes, then opened them suddenly. Terrifying spiritual pressure, like an overlord's domineering aura, suddenly surged out of Roja's body. It is majestic, as heavy as Mount Tai. Buzz! Moment! This overlord-like domineering energy, with Roja as the center, enveloped the squid and Sea Kings in an instant. The overlord-colored domineering energy that covered a range of 6,000 meters completely exploded under Roja's release. Call it Ain and Stella, because of Roja's special care. So I wasn't knocked unconscious, but even so, they can also feel the hell-like aura from Roja's body. At this time, the domineering spirit became reality. The terrifying pressure caused the 5,500-meter-long Neptune-like squid in front of him to shrink its tentacles. But it's not over yet. Under Roja's full control, his cloak of justice automatically moved without wind. Puff, puff. Under the illumination of the warship's lights, Ain and Stella could only see that the body of the Sea King squid was so shaken that cracks appeared. The domineering energy that swept across all directions before was now controlled by Roja, completely pressing on it. The Neptune-like squid kept struggling, curling up and stirring the seawater, causing waves of fluctuations even in the deep sea. But its tentacles could never reach Roja, the warship at its feet. One could imagine how terrifying this domineering aura is. Too strong. Is this the Master's power? Only Lord Roja can achieve this level of domineering power. The two women's eyes were shining with stars, and they looked at Roja's back with admiration. It seems that he wants to imprint Roja's figure completely in his mind. Ryatsu and Overlord Color Haki are very similar. But there is a difference. For example, the aggressiveness far exceeds the domineering power of the Overlord. Now that you're here, don't leave. After all, this world is about the jungle and the strong. As soon as he finished speaking, Roja completely exploded with his spiritual pressure, shattering the 5,500-meter-long Neptune-like squid in front of him into dozens of pieces. This is the White Dove. The most powerful general to date, General White Dove, who is feared by countless pirates. Ain and Stella thought in their hearts at the same time. Slowly put away the spiritual pressure, Roja's expression remained unchanged. And from the outside, it looked like he had done a small thing. Under the gaze of the two women, Roja walked to his seat and continued to taste the food in front of it. At the same time, he said to Ain and Stella, "This is a late-stage derivative of Overlord Color Haki. You can train your mind more, and maybe you can awaken Overlord Color Haki." Don't think that domineering looks are a rare thing. The more people think that the Overlord color of domineering is rare, the less likely it is for people to awaken the Overlord color of domineering energy. Do you understand? After hearing what Roshi said, Ain immediately realized that this was Roshi's teaching to them. Ain quickly stood up from his seat, saluted Roja with a military salute, and said, "I understand, Lord Roja." At the same time, Ain secretly thought in his heart, it turns out that Mr. Roja just asked them to exercise their mental state because he wanted them to awaken their domineering energy. Seeing Ain looking so serious, Roker was also a little bit dumbfounded. Okay, now that the crisis is over, let's continue to taste the delicious food made by Stella. Aha. Ain and Stella both nodded at the same time. Now that the crisis has been resolved, they only feel that their appetites are instantly widened. In the coming time, Roy controlled his Phantom, drove the warship, safely crossed the undercurrent in the deep sea, and then came to the Fishman Island. At this time, in the Dragon King's palace on Fishman Island, under the order of King Neptune, various ministers followed Neptune to the port of Fishman Island. Fishman Island also has a port. After all, they all need to be managed uniformly. There was a slight smile on Roya's lips. He obviously did not expect that Neptune would actually come out to meet him in person. Ain and Stella, when they were about to enter Fishman Island, could not suppress their little girl natures, and looked at everything around them excitedly. Look, Fishman Island is actually surrounded by a huge bubble. There are actually clouds here. There may even be air. This is incredible. Is this the 10,000-meter deep Fishman Island under the Holy Land Marie Jouet? Sure. While the two women were amazed, Roja controlled the warship and had arrived at the Fishman Island. The electronic sound of the system suddenly appeared in Roja's mind. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully signing in and obtaining peak knowledge, color, and peak domination. The peak level of domineering power allows the host to predict the enemy's next attack route, as well as the next 5 minutes, and you can communicate with everything. When Roja heard the system's words, he was slightly stunned. Although Roja has been able to predict that when the color reaches its peak, it will be very powerful. But what Roja didn't expect was that, in terms of functionality, the domineering power of peak knowledge and knowledge is really much more domineering than the domineering power of peak armed power. In particular, the ability to communicate with all things was something he did not expect. I never thought that after reaching the peak of seeing and hearing, I would be able to communicate with all living things. Roja sighed in his heart. But at this moment, the system rarely sounded in Roja's mind again. Ding! Remind the host that the ability to communicate with all things cannot be awakened by anyone who reaches the peak of seeing, hearing, and color. After receiving the system's answer, Roja's smile became even brighter. If this is the case, when he meets someone with peak knowledge and domineering power in the future, he will be able to have one more powerful ability than others, which will give him an even greater advantage. Thinking of this, Roja suddenly realized that he was overthinking it. After all, how many people can reach the pinnacle of knowledge? Knowledge and color. At this time, the worship at Roja's feet had already arrived in front of King Neptune. Roja was very peaceful. He came to Neptune and said to Neptune, "Excuse me, your majesty the king. I am honored to do so." As Roja finished speaking, both Ain and Stella saluted King Neptune. King Neptune waved his hand and said, "No need to be polite. I have long heard that General White Pigeon is extremely handsome and has a transcendent temperament. Now that I see him, it is indeed true. It's just rumors from the outside world that I'm just an ordinary person with slightly stronger strength." Hearing Roja's words, a gleam flashed in Neptune's eyes. He thought to himself, Baige is not only humble, but also extremely powerful, either because of his personality or because the city is extremely deep. However, Neptune saw Roja's expression and felt that Roja should belong to the former. After all, this was the first time Neptune had seen such a gentle smile on the face of someone above the rank of Vice Admiral. "General Baige, when I heard that you were coming to Fishman Island, I ordered people to prepare a banquet. I wonder if General Baige would like to participate." The king's personal invitation was a great honor in the eyes of other fishmen. Naturally, Roja would not do anything bad to those who respected him. He just nodded slightly and said to Neptune, "Excuse me." After getting Roja's affirmation, everyone walked towards the Dragon King's palace on Fishman Island. Roja looked around here and couldn't find Kaishia Jinbei's existence. Even Fisher Tiger's figure was not found. Roja was a little confused about this. After a while, used the phone bug to contact Fisher Tiger. I hope he is on Fishman Island. In this case, things will be much easier to handle. Unconsciously, under the leadership of Neptune, Luoya and others soon arrived on Fishman Island in front of the magnificent Dragon King's palace, only to hear the system's electronic sound sounded in Roja's mind again. "Ding! Congratulations to the host for checking into the Dragon Palace and getting a vicious medicine with no side effects. After use, the power is doubled and lasts for 5 minutes, but without any side effects." After checking into the Dragon King's palace, you hear the electronic sound of the system. Roja was slightly speechless. He did not expect that, after checking into the Dragon King's palace, he would receive such a unique reward. Although it has no side effects, it still looks a bit weird, but it can be used as a trump card, which is not bad. King Neptune keenly captured the changes in Roja's expression. "General Baige, what's wrong? Are you dissatisfied with my arrangements?" Hearing what King Neptune said, Roja shook his head and said, "King Neptune, you are joking. I was just shocked by the magnificence of the Dragon Palace. Isn't it just business talk?" "Roja will too." Hearing Roja's words, King Neptune laughed heartily. "Ha ha ha ha, it's really an honor to be able to let General Baige express such praise." "Hey, you're serious. Just call me Roja. White Dove is just a title." If we really want to say that the title of terror belongs to the mysterious man from Roja. If Neptune knew that Roja was not only Admiral Baige, but also the mysterious man famous on the sea, he didn't know what his expression would be. Will he receive him so grandly? The three of Luoya were treated as honored guests in the Dragon King's palace. Sitting under Neptune, Roja watched the delicacies, belonging to Fishman Island being served one after another. Roja is also looking forward to the taste of these foods, especially the desserts from Fishman Island. You know, this is the food that makes Big Mom salivate. Roya, I wonder if the Warring States Marshal sent you to Fishman Island for some reason. Recently, the Navy plans to release the Shichibukai Plan, inviting pirates from all walks of life to join it and enjoy privileges. Marshal Sengoku thought about the problems of Fishman Island and its people, so he invited me to invite Kakia Jinbei to join the Shichibukai and promote the peaceful development of both parties. Hearing Roja's words, Neptune nodded slightly. He was thinking about what benefit Roja's words, or this Shichibukai Plan, would have for them. At this time, Roja handed Neptune a manuscript with Sengoku's autograph on it. After reading this manuscript, Neptune only felt that this Shichibukai plan was a very good plan for them. But in terms of strength, isn't Fisher Tiger even more powerful? Hearing Neptune's answer, the corner of Roja's mouth twitched. He originally thought that Neptune knew the reason why Fisher Tiger was not used in the Warring States period, but judging from the current situation, he was overthinking it. Roja looked at Neptune helplessly and said, "Your Majesty, you're really joking. You also know that Fisher Tiger made a big fuss in the Holy Land, Mariosia, before for such it exists, and even the Navy can't get rid of it in time. It can only be said that in the New World, in such a chaotic situation, the Warring States Marshal's helpless move. King, if you can seize this opportunity, not only the matter of Fisher Tiger can be alleviated, but also the fishmen can be promoted. And human development, isn't it great? Therefore, Marshal of the Warring States period, specially sent me here." After hearing Roja's words, Neptune only felt that this was indeed the case. He didn't expect it, he didn't even think thoroughly about Roja. "My lord, do you know where Kaikuya Jinbei is now?" "I don't know where they are. I will send people to find them now." Hearing Neptune's words, Roja frowned slightly. "Excuse me, Your Majesty the King." After saying that, Roja waited patiently here, and at this time the banquet has completely begun. Dozens of mermaids danced in front of them, their sleeves swaying, which was particularly moving. The other side. Outside the Dragon King's palace, a remote place about 10,000 meters away. Different from the prosperity near the Dragon King's palace, the seaweed here is overgrown and looks extremely chaotic. From the looks of it, no Murlocs have set foot here for at least 10 years. And it was in such a deserted place that 2 Murlocs with dark red and blue skins came to their presence. He received news that a human who came to Fishman Island accidentally entered here by mistake and was injured here. Out of a good impression of human beings, they came here and planned to take a look. I will plan to find Roja later. However, what Fisher Tiger and Jinbei didn't expect was, what's waiting for them here is not an injured human being, but Hody Jones. Fisher Tiger and Jinbei both knew Hody Jones before them. They obviously also knew that they had been deceived by Hody Jones. Fisher Tiger looked at the black-haired Hody Jones in front of him wearing a flat hat with a trident pattern on his head, a wolfskin scarf around his neck, and a large area of tattoos on his left arm, and said angrily, "Hody Jones, what do you mean?" Hody Jones looked at Fisher Tiger and Jinbei in front of him and sneered, "Sha ha 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 ha. What do you mean? Of course I came to stop you." "Stop us? Stop what?" Fisher Tiger couldn't understand what Hody Jones meant at all. Hody Jones squinted at the 2 fishmen in front of him and said, "Captain Fisher Tiger, Brother Jinbei, you are the fishman we admire most now, with powerful strength and extraordinary courage. Especially Captain Fisher Tiger, who climbed up to the Holy Land. Marie Joie, with his bare hands, and rescued countless of our compatriots. Even I admire you very much. But, speaking of this, Hody Jones' expression changed. He did not hide his murderous aura. But because of this, why do you plan to find the white pigeon? I heard that you plan to find the white pigeon and then bring the relationship between fish and humans closer, is that right?" Fisher Tiger did not know the true identity of General White Pigeon at this time. I don't know that Royal was the mysterious man who saved Fisher Tiger from the fire and water. But even so, Fisher Tiger and Jinbei still wanted to meet Baigay and discuss with Baigay the relationship between the 2 races. If they can win over the General Baigay, then they will be able to gain a little more status in the world government. But this idea was discovered by Hody Jones in front of him. As a fishman supremacist, he would never allow this to happen. So after thinking about this, Hody Jones did not hesitate and took advantage of the kindness of Fisher Tiger and Jinbei, two fishmen, to make an appointment with them here. The purpose is to realize his ambition. Hody Jones has shown his madness. Fisher Tiger, Jinbei, I respect you, but you have really disappointed me, so I decided to replace you and lead the fishmen to attack the mainland, telling them that only the fishmen are truly superior species. Hear Hody Jones's crazy words. Fisher Tiger and Jinbei looked at each other. Fisher Tiger took a step forward and said, Hody Jones, I've seen this idea of yours a lot, but it's just a misguided approach. Wrong way? I think you are the wrong way. It's a complete joke to coexist peacefully with humans. Humans should be slaves of us fishmen. Forget it. Talking more is useless. Fight. I will use our strength proves that your idea is completely wrong. Hearing Hody Jones's increasingly fierce words, Fisher Tiger no longer hesitated, took a step forward, assumed a defensive posture, and said confidently, Hody Jones, you were just King Neptune before. He's just a soldier beside me, no match for me at all. At this time, Jinbei reminded from the side, Captain Fisher Tiger, be careful of his dirty tricks. Hearing the conversation between Fisher Tiger and Jinbei, Hody Jones sneered, a dirty trick? No, I will defeat you openly. As he spoke, Hody Jones took out an ES poison from his arms. When two fishmen, Fisher Tiger and Jinbei, saw Hody Jones holding something in his hand, both eyes suddenly shrank. They obviously recognized what this was. This is ES poison? How did you get it? Of course I got it from the Jade Show box in the Dragon King's palace. Do you believe that this Jade Show box that has been treasured for many years in the Dragon King's palace is actually this ES poison? ES drug is energy steroid. Energy steroid. After taking this kind of medicine, you can get a substantial increase in strength, but the side effects are life-saving. You can only eat one pill at most. But Hody Jones didn't take it to heart at all. Without hesitation, Hody Jones directly swallowed more than 10 pills of ES poison in his hand into his body. Buzz. The blood flow in Hody Jones' body suddenly accelerated. The body muscles swelled more than once. The veins on it popped out, completely pushing up the clothes. Even the aura on his body has become much more fierce. In this quiet and deserted place, Fisher Tiger and Jinbei can even hear the rapidly beating heart of Hody Jones. Hody Jones, are you trying to kill yourself? You actually ate it all at once. Speaking of this, Fisher Tiger's forehead shed cold sweat. Hody Jones didn't care at all about Fisher Tiger's words. Fisher Tiger, put away your hypocrisy and let us speak directly with our strength. As soon as he finished speaking, Hody Jones rushed towards Fisher Tiger. The speed is so fast that even the mermaid in the sea cannot match Hody Jones at this time. I'll go first. Jinbei on the side couldn't stand it anymore. Without saying a word, he jumped out from beside Fisher Tiger. 5,000-piece karate. Jinbei's race belongs to the whale shark people, and strength is Jinbei's strength. That fist, which was enough to destroy 5,000 tiles, fell directly on Hody Jones. Bang. When the two came into contact, the strong air pressure exploded in the air like a bomb. Before Jinbei could react, Hody Jones sneered. The fistful of veins was swung upward with force. Bursts of air explosions appeared at this time. Jinbei felt that his chin had endured an unprecedented force attack. It directly caused Jinbei's body to hurt, and then he fell heavily to the ground. It all happened so fast. Not even Fisher Tiger noticed what was going on. Between the lightning and Flint, Hody Jones used only one move to completely defeat Kaisha Jinbei. This terrifying power made Fisher Tiger feel his heart tremble. Hody Jones spreads his hands. Looking at Jinbei falling in the distance, Hody Jones laughed out loud. Taya! Have you seen it? Have you seen it? This is the power that belongs to me. This powerful force, even Kaike Jinbei, is no match for me. Are you right? Fisher Tiger had a stern look on his face. The moment he was stared at by Hody Jones, he felt a powerful aura pressing down on his heart. This feeling made him very uncomfortable. Hody Jones, this is not your power. You are overdrawing your body. Fisher Tiger added, go to treatment immediately. Maybe you can save a life. Once your body is completely exhausted, you really can't save it. Overdrawing my body? No, this is just the power hidden in my body. Fisher Tiger, are you afraid? At this time, Jinbei had already gotten up from the ground. He looked solemnly at Hody Jones in front of him and said to Fisher Tiger, "Captain, Hody Jones has gone crazy. He must be suppressed quickly, otherwise it may cause a catastrophe." Hearing Jinbei's words, Fisher Tiger nodded heavily. Seeing Fisher Tiger and Jinbei preparing to join forces in front of him, Hody Jones didn't take it to heart at all. "Come on, let's do it together. Even if we do it together, you are still no match for me." With that said, Hody Jones took more than 10 pills of ES poison and he looked stronger. He was exuding the aura of a ferocious beast all the time, and his eyes were red. He looked like it makes people shudder. No more time can be given to Hody Jones to take medicine. They must join forces to defeat this madman in front of them. Without any hesitation, Jinbei took a step forward, the soul of Samehada's palm. Jinbei was seen using the powerful strength of his feet to fly into the air. Immediately afterwards, he used his whole body's strength in the air to use the Sema Shoken. He quickly fell from the air towards Hody Jones's position. At this time, Fisher Tiger also displayed his own unique skill. Molecular Karate Uchigi Bora Kan. Fisher Tiger condensed a water ball in his palm and then threw it towards Hody Jones. This water droplet has very powerful power. It can easily pass through the human body and can even penetrate the Neptune species that are several times larger than mountains. It is a very terrifying secret skill. Faced with the combined attack of Jinbei and Fisher Tiger, Hody Jones was not timid at all. He grinned, revealing his pale teeth, which looked quite scary. "Come on, let me see how powerful you are." As soon as the words fell, Hody Jones' figure disappeared instantly. This is not shaving. Rather, it is pure physical strength that drives the body, allowing Hody Jones to move at high speeds. He arrived in front of Jinbei in an instant. Opening his palm, Hody Jones took the move directly. Localant Karate Same. Laugh. Jinbei's palm was crushed in the hands of Hody Jones without any resistance. There was no way the hard hand bones could withstand the power of Hody Jones. Holding Jinbei's hand tightly, Hody Jones threw him over his shoulder. Bang! There was another loud noise echoing in this deserted place. Intense pain shot straight into Jinbei's brain. After spitting out a large amount of blood, Jinbei fainted. "Your turn, Fisher Tiger!" Hody Jones casually smashed Fisher Tiger's volley into pieces. The relaxed and comfortable look shocked Fisher Tiger. How can it be? Fisher Tiger couldn't believe that Hody Jones, who had taken medicine, could be so powerful. How is that possible? Fisher Tiger, the real show is yet to come. I'm locking in karate, Umi Taiko. Hody Jones pumped his fist, compressing the moisture in the environment to form a high-density water droplet. This drop of water is as big as a fist, and it is filled with explosive power. Fisher Tiger, you better try it yourself to see what the true power of Fishman Karate is. This fist-sized drop of water, no. This can no longer be called water droplets, but a water ball. The water mass was freezing in the air, roaring towards Fisher Tiger. Fisher Tiger couldn't escape. In desperation, Fisher Tiger could only subconsciously cross his hands to protect his chest. As the water mass arrived, Fisher Tiger felt a chill envelope him. Bang. The water mass carries strong rotational force. The moment it came into contact with Fisher Tiger's skin, a bloody flower began to bloom out of thin air. The water mass penetrated Fisher Tiger's body, making Fisher Tiger's body appear a big hole that made people tremble with fear. Seeing that my own strength is already so strong, with a wave of his hand, he defeated Fisher Tiger and Jinbei, both of whom had become famous on the sea. The extremely strong self-confidence made Hody Jones feel that he could easily defeat even the Yonko who had just established the new world. Furio. Looking at Fisher Tiger and Jinbei who fell to the ground, Hody Jones opened his arms and said his crazy words. Fisher Tiger, Jinbei, although your strength is not very strong, far behind me, but if you are willing to surrender to me, agree with my ideas, and become my crew, then I can be very merciful. Save your lives. Otherwise, Fisher Tiger relied on his fishman physique to survive even if his chest was pierced. But the feeling of serious injury is obviously not that pleasant. Fisher Tiger could feel that his life was passing quickly, but even so, Fisher Tiger endured the pain and slowly got up from the ground. It is impossible to surrender to you. It's impossible to be your crewmate. It's impossible to agree with your absolutely wrong philosophy. Fisher Tiger stood up, covered his chest with his hands as hard as he could, grinned at the corner of his mouth, and refused fiercely. Hody Jones clenched his fists as Fisher Tiger spoke each word. His blood-red eyes looked at Fisher Tiger coldly and said, Are you done? I'm done. Please go die. The figure of Hody Jones suddenly appeared in front of Fisher Tiger. The fist quickly enlarged in Fisher Tiger's field of vision. When he was about to hit Fisher Tiger in the face, Hody Jones suddenly stopped. The wind from the fist blew Fisher Tiger's hair. Suddenly he had an idea. Hody Jones retracted his fist and said to Fisher Tiger, "Instead of letting you die like this, I still think that I should let you witness the changes in Fishman Island with your own eyes and let you die in the most painful despair. Will be the best choice for you." With that said, Hody Jones gave Fisher Tiger a simple bandage. Then Jinbei was tied up with the strongest rope, and at the same time, Jinbei's limbs were crushed, making it impossible for Jinbei to untie the rope. After doing all this, Hody Jones took out the phone bug and ordered his men, "Start the plan." Ep2. Inside the Dragon King's palace, Roja and the others are enjoying the joy of the banquet and the delicious food. But at this moment, a soldier came to the banquet hall in a hurry. The smile on Neptune's face disappeared for a moment, and he said in a calm voice, "What happened?" "Dragon King Palace has countless rules." Neptune was very angry at such rude soldiers. However, this soldier made a decision resolutely, even though he knew there would be punishment. So we can only say that something really happened. Sure enough, the pale-faced soldier knelt directly in front of Neptune and reported to Neptune, "Your Majesty, what's wrong? Hody Jones led the new Fishman pirates and countless human slaves to rebel. Got it." Hearing these words, Neptune secretly thought something bad. Before Neptune could say anything, Roja looked at Neptune with a stern face and said to Neptune, word by word, "Neptune, I need your explanation." This time, Roja didn't even use the honorific title King. Neptune also knew that Roja was angry at this time. But Neptune is also a king after all, and he has his own way of dealing with this kind of thing. He comforted Roja a little, and then said to the soldier, "What exactly happened?" The soldier did not dare to hesitate and said quickly, "The specific matter has not been investigated yet. According to visual inspection, the new Fishman pirate group established by Hody Jones has about 1,000 fishmen and nearly 10,000 slaves. They are constantly destroying Fishman Island and saying that they want to bring new life to Fishman Island. Also, the two bosses, Fisher Tiger and Jinbei, were both defeated by Hody Jones. The chest of Fisher Tiger was even pierced." Hearing the soldier's words, everyone around him took a breath. They knew the abilities of Fisher Tiger and Jinbei, but precisely because of their understanding, they felt even more shocked after they were defeated by Hody Jones. Roja's mind came up with countless possibilities in a short period of time, but whether it was with Fisher Tiger, the better mysterious person, or the general who was sent to invite Genmi to join the Shichibukai project, both can involve Fisher Tiger and Jinbei. In other words, Hody Jones offended Roja. With a sigh, Roja stood up from his seat. "Ain Stella, let's go!" "Yes!" Roja and the two girls walked out of the banquet hall neatly and walked toward the chaotic streets. When he saw this scene, Neptune's eyes lit up, and he quickly said to Sharkstar next to him, "Send troops immediately." Before Neptune could finish speaking, Roja's voice was heard coming from a distance. "Don't cause unnecessary casualties. Leave this matter to me." Roja's words were filled with incomparable confidence. Neptune also reacted immediately, but he was worried and led his ministers to follow Roja. At this time, Fishman Island was already in chaos. Countless fishmen and slaves who had been ordered to cause chaos everywhere. These slaves were all obtained by Hody Jones. As a fisherman supremacist, his biggest hobby is this kind of thing. Any fishman who joins the new Fishman pirate group will gain supreme power. Let us overthrow Neptune together and establish ourselves as king. Hody Jones shouted the words from his mouth. He was surrounded by his supporters. At this time, Hody Jones looked at Jinbei and Fisher Tiger next to him and said, "Do you smell it? There is a wonderful smell in the air at this time. I will become the new king of Fishman Island soon. When the time comes, I will continue to fight and then completely rule the sea." Fisher Tiger held on to his strength, looked at Hody Jones next to him and said, "Ha, you are worthy enough?" Hearing Fisher Tiger's rather disdainful words, Hody Jones only felt anger rising in his heart. "Yeah, ha, I will let you see with your own eyes how I did it. I just hope that your body can still hold on when I become emperor." As soon as Hody Jones finished speaking, he saw the three of Roja walking out of the Dragon King's palace. Jaya, ha. It seems that the Dragon King Palace has received the news. but Neptune actually asked these 3 people to come forward to stop us. Do you really think that these 3 people can resist the scale of these 10,000 people? If Hody Jones had known what happened to Click, he might not have said these words. With his powerful physical strength, Hody Jones came directly not far from Roja and said arrogantly, "Are you the General Baige? Why should a dying person say so much?" Roja paid no attention to Hody Jones. Even under the gaze of Hody Jones, he slowly closed his eyes. Seeing Roja looking down on himself as a human being, Hody Jones felt extremely insulted. Just when Hody Jones was ready to teach Roja a lesson, Roja opened his eyes. In an instant, Roja released the spiritual pressure in his body that was as domineering as a king. Buzz, the overwhelming, terrifying aura, instantly spread from Roja's body to the front of the chaos. The wind suddenly rises, and the Fishman Island, dust was blown all over the sky. This was the first time they had seen such an exaggerated hurricane. Everyone was stunned for a moment. This is not the end. Roja's momentum is rising steadily, becoming as deep and terrifying as the sea. The overbearing color that swept across all directions impacted the minds of those who created chaos. Just less than a second. Plop, plop, plop. The sounds of people falling to the ground, one after another, kept coming. They fell straight to the ground. If they didn't know better, they would just faint. So, just based on this picture, it can even be said that there are millions of corpses. The ground was full of motionless bodies. The atmosphere became extremely peaceful. Tens of thousands of slaves and thousands of fishmen. Without exception, they were all stunned by Roja's domineering aura and lost consciousness on the spot. They fell to the ground and fell into a coma. Among all the riders, only Hody Jones was not stunned by Roja's domineering aura. I guess it's because the poison is still working today. A little confusion flashed in Hody Jones's eyes. He turned around and looked at the scene in front of him. I was extremely shocked. Is this the strength of a general? This is too terrifying. Hody Jones's expression changed, and he thought to himself, no matter how strong he is, so what? He's just a human being, and besides, he has a trump card. Thinking of this, Hody Jones immediately took out handfuls of ES poison from his bag. The number of these vicious medicines alone has reached at least 300. Hody Jones took the poison directly in as if he were eating. Neptune arrived late with his ministers. When they saw the fallen people everywhere they looked, they were very shocked. But when they saw what Hody Jones had in his hands, they were even more shocked. Baige, this is the ES poison, a drug that can make people stronger. He has swallowed so much, if he had not died, he would have become... I saw it, you go and save Jinbei and Fisher Tiger first. They are already seriously injured. It will be more troublesome to delay it any longer. Yes, I'll make arrangements right now. At this time, Royale looked at Hody Jones. Hody Jones's body has doubled in size. Like a monster. The skin has been stretched to the point of being almost transparent. You can clearly see the blood flowing inside, and you can even faintly see the rapidly beating heart. Gives people a very uncomfortable feeling. Although the skin seems to have become transparent, its toughness has been greatly improved. Feeling the explosive power in his body, Hody Jones laughed out loud. Ja ha 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 ha. You see, this is power, invincible power. No one can resist it. I, Hody Jones... Have you finished speaking? If you finish speaking, I will take action. Although Hody Jones took a lot of dangerous drugs, his brain was still relatively bright. He did not wait for Roja to take the lead, but rushed directly towards Roja. At this time, Hody Jones, who was nearly 4 meters tall, rushed towards Roja like a hill. However, compared to the Whitebeard, the second Weibo that Roja defeated before, it pales in comparison. Sighing, Roja said softly, in the final analysis, your vision is still too narrow. The sea is not as simple as you think. The peak of his domineering power is activated. Roja directly predicted the trajectory of Hody Jones's offense. Roya's head was seen, and he ducked slightly to the side, dodging Hody Jones's attack. Navy Form 6, paper drawing. Roja put down all his strength, and it was like paper floating in the wind. Easily dodged Hody Jones's crazy attack. Hody Jones became more and more frightened as he fought. He has used all his strength. Speed and power reached unprecedented peaks. Punch quickly, even reaching the speed of hundreds of punches per second. But even so, he still didn't touch the corner of Roja's clothes. It's useless. I've predicted your next move in advance. Hearing Roja's words, Hody Jones retreated suddenly. Prediction? So what if my speed is so fast that even if you predict it, you can't avoid it? Thinking of this, Hody Jones immediately started eating. As if he had completely given up his life, he swallowed all the ES poison into his stomach. It hurts. It hurts so much. But this feeling is power. Ja! You are finished, General Beige. At this time, I have become even more powerful. Although the large amount of ES poison seriously overdrawn Hody Jones's life, it also gave him great strength and self-confidence. However, in this regard, Roja just said lightly, "Oh, really, wait until you can take my blow, then you can say those big words again." As Roja's words fell, Roja jumped hard. Linjiao White Pigeon. This is a derivative skill of Lanjiao, named after Roja's own title. The moment Roja kicked out, Lanjiao suddenly transformed into the shape of a white dove, looking very noble. As the pigeon spread its wings in the air, Lanji's speed suddenly increased. At this time, Hody Jones was almost suspicious of Yu Shen. He had obviously released so many poisons, but he still couldn't see clearly Rocha's attack. Because the speed was so fast, he couldn't catch it with his naked eyes alone. His brain was working like crazy, but Lanjiao's sharp edge had enveloped his body. The terrifying sense of oppression affected every cell in his body. At this time, every cell in Hody Jones's body was extremely sensitive. It's all filled with a lot of vicious medicine. At this time, the white pigeon spread its wings and exploded suddenly.
Hi.
Directly cut Hody Jones's body in half. Hody Jones can still feel the pain faintly. He looked at his body divided into two halves. Horrified, shocked, but irreversible. This Dailam kick is really too fast. It has completely exceeded the speed that Hody Jones can capture. Dark, senseless, silent. Eaten Hody Jones's brain. And his body, due to the interruption of blood, caused the drug's power to explode at this time. Just now, it looked like a huge body. At this time, he suddenly turned into a skinny old man. Task. Disc. Is this the result of using dangerous drugs? It's really miserable. At this time, everyone who saw this scene in front of them was completely stunned. Hody Jones was actually killed by Roja in one move. This is too powerful. Is this the legendary Admiral? Can humans really be so powerful? It's incredible. If only I could reach this level. The people around were whispering. Aang and Stella, standing behind Roja, also looked at Roja with admiration. The two women all thought to themselves, as expected of Lord Roja, he is really too strong. They must work harder to train themselves. There is absolutely no way to embarrass Roja. Then they only saw the scene in front of them. Unlike Neptune, he also suspected Yu Sheng at this time. King Neptune knows how powerful the poison is. If an ordinary fisherman eats one pill, he can be called the strongest soldier. And Hody Jones ate hundreds of pills, and when facing Roja, he was still no match for Roja's move. How could Neptune not be surprised by this? Especially Roja, who was completely unscathed at this time, and had not been touched by Hody Jones. Not only that, he stood there very relaxed, as if he had completed a very simple thing. Neptune knew before that General White Pigeon was very powerful, but they never imagined it. Neptune, free all these slaves and transport them to a nearby naval base. Is that okay? Don't worry, General Beige. I swear as the king of the Fishman Kingdom that I will definitely do this. Roja nodded. Then he added, have Fisher Tiger and Jinbe started rescue operations. Well, it's just that Fisher Tiger's body is obviously not optimistic. Shall I go take a look? I am quite confident in my medical skills. When Roja and others came to Fisher Tiger, who had fainted, there are already many people and fishmen around, waking up from their dizziness. Roja stood next to Fisher Tiger and looked at Fisher Tiger's situation at this time. His brows wrinkled slightly. King Neptune asked Rhodey, General White Pigeon, is there any hope? He's saved, he just needs a blood transfusion. Blood transfusion? It's okay. I'll have the soldiers come over for blood transfusion right now. Roja shook his head slightly and said, no, your races are completely different. It's usually okay, but now Fisher Tiger is seriously injured. If he really needs to use it, he will only die faster. In this situation, only able to use human blood, As Roja's words fell, the surrounding fishmen suddenly began to whisper. Using human blood to save the fishmen, isn't this a joke? How is this possible? He is definitely trying to frame our fishman hero. Before, I didn't care about Fisher Tiger and Jinbei, the crazy fish people doing odd jobs. At this time, he began to criticize Roja as if he didn't trust Roja at all. It can be said to be a very double standard, but Neptune is very open-minded. He said to Roja in a deep voice, "General, by day, are you sure?" Confident. Then Roja turned and looked at the human slaves. Of course, now they are free with the help of Roja. Roja looked at them and said, "Do any of you volunteer to come over and give this fishman a blood transfusion?" As Roja's words fell, the entire island fell silent. They had been treated as slaves by these fishmen before, and their lives were worse than death. Now, if they were asked to use their own blood to save the fishmen, they would never agree. Neptune's heart gradually sank. But at this moment, someone in the crowd suddenly said, "I am willing. I support peace. If this move can bring us closer, then I am willing." As the words fell, everyone followed the voice and looked at the person who spoke. This man looks a little dark, but his eyes had an indescribable light. It was as if there was light inside. As the young man finished speaking, these words continued to ferment in the hearts of others. They raised their hands one after another. "I do. If that's really the case, then I would too. My wish is world peace." Neptune and the other fishmen stared blankly at the humans in front of them. They did not expect that these humans were really willing to put aside all prejudices and use their own blood to save the fishmen. This was something they never expected. The corners of Roja's mouth raised slightly, and he said, "One person will never be enough to queue up. Fortunately, no matter what blood type he is, it is acceptable to Fisher Tiger, and he will not conflict." With Roja's leadership, these people began to line up in an orderly manner and signed up enthusiastically. The dark-skinned young man who just spoke also smiled, and when no one was paying attention, he turned into a phantom and shattered. Yes, this is Roja's handiwork. Time flies. In about an hour, Fisher Tiger finally emerged from the brink of death. However, he was still seriously injured. If the big hole in his chest is not repaired and healed, Fisher Tiger may still be seriously injured and die. With his peak medical skills, he can indeed be cured, but it will take a long time, and he must be observed by Fisher Tiger's side all the time. Roja doesn't have this time. Thinking of this, Roja made a decision. "System, take out that poisonous medicine that has no side effects." Then Roja said to the system. A burst of light blue light flashed. Roja took advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention. Fisher Tiger swallowed this poison. After Fisher Tiger swallowed it, the vicious medicine immediately began to take effect. Fisher Tiger's aura began to grow stronger, but because there are no side effects, it will not overdraw Fisher Tiger's life. On the contrary, it can provide Fisher Tiger with extremely powerful recovery capabilities. I saw that flesh sprouts began to appear on Fisher Tiger's hollow chest. These granulations continued to grow and finally slowly blocked the wound on Fisher Tiger's chest. When the people around them saw this scene, they just thought it was a miracle. This is too exaggerated. Is this a miracle? Perhaps humans, fishmen, and mermaids can really live in peace in the future. Can this effect be achieved using human blood? Here, the voices coming from these crowds. Roja smiled and said, "Only the blood of voluntary humans can achieve this effect." Neptune was stunned when he heard Roja's words. He suddenly reacted. He suddenly realized, wasn't this done intentionally by Roja? Let humans and the people of Fishman Island coexist peacefully. There are really people who are willing to help them on this road. And he's still a white pigeon general. Thinking of this, tears suddenly shed from the corners of Neptune's eyes. He thought of his late Princess Otohime and felt indescribably moved in his heart. Otohime, if you saw this scene in front of you now, you would definitely be very happy. The 5 minutes for the medicine to take effect passed in the blink of an eye. Fisher Tiger has also emerged from serious injury. I saw him slowly opening his eyes and looking at his surroundings. Now, how is the situation now? Neptune was very pleased to see Fisher Tiger cares so much about Fishman Island. Everything has been solved now. Neptune paused and said, "And it was General Beige who personally rescued you. White dove." Fisher Tiger repeated it, and when he reacted, his pupils shrank suddenly. "I'm not here to find you, and my target is not you. but the kite had Jinbei next to you. You, what do you want to do to Jinbei? Roja stopped Fisher Tiger and tried to strengthen his heart. Neptune was behind and said quickly, don't worry, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Hearing his own king, he also said the same thing. Fisher Tiger was finally relieved. After dealing with Jinbei's injury, Neptune immediately sent someone to take Fisher Tiger and Jinbei to the top medical room to rest. At the same time, he said to Roja, General Beige, don't worry, I agreed to Shichibukai's proposal on behalf of Jinbei. Roja nodded. Just when he was about to leave, Neptune hurriedly said, General White Pigeon, I actually have an unkind request here. Neptune added, if you could agree, you can come to me for anything I can help with in the future. What's the matter? Roja said lightly. A flash of resentment flashed in Neptune's eyes. I have a daughter named Baixing. She looks sweet, but she was harassed by a guy named Vanderdecken. At first, this guy would send love letters to the Dragon Palace Kingdom, at most a week, and then he became more and more serious. The letter turned into a mail package, and in the end, it even turned into a threatening marriage proposal. There is no other way. I will let the 3 Neptune brothers lead the army to hunt down Vanderdecken Nikes. But even if he is wanted by the Ryugu Kingdom, Vanderdecken the Nike will still take weapons and attack the hard-shell tower where White Star is located. So, I want to ask you to help me capture Vanderdecken Nike. I will definitely not let this guy go. Neptune was a good and generous king, and he was very humble. But when it comes to Vanderdecken Nike, he grits his teeth. This shows how much Neptune hates this Vanderdecken. When Roja heard Neptune's complaint, he immediately thought of Shirahoshi's Neptune ability. Shirahoshi is a mermaid princess, and the king of the sea, one of the 3 ancient weapons. These 2 identities, no matter which identity you take, are very awesome. But such a being was forced to live in a hard-shell tower by a guy named Vanderdecken Nut. It can only be said that Baixing is too kind. Of course, there was also the reason why Neptune didn't want Shirahoshi's identity to be exposed and cause a bigger disturbance. Your Majesty, where is the hard-shell tower? Hearing Roja's words, Neptune felt very excited. You agreed? Roja nodded and said calmly, just think of it as finding a training partner for Ing. I was stunned for a moment when he heard Roja suddenly calling his name. Lord Roja, shall I take action this time? Of course. After being out for such a long time, if there is no one to fight with, your hands will be rusty. Ain said seriously, don't worry, Mr. Roja. I will definitely not let you down. When Neptune saw the scene, he felt that the white pigeon general in front of him was definitely the kind of person worthy of close friendship. Immediately, Neptune said, White Pigeon, I will take you there. With that said, Neptune personally led Roja and others to the hard-shell tower next to the Dragon King's palace. Just listen to the electronic sound of the system in Roja's mind. Ding, check in the hard-shell tower and get the reward. 100% favorability of White Star. Hearing this reward from the system, Ro was stunned for a moment, and the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. What's wrong? Is there anything strange? Neptune obviously noticed the change in Roja's expression. Fine. Roja shook his head, but he slowly stretched out his hand and directly pulled out the blade from Ain's waist. Ain was stunned for a moment. I saw the great swordsman on Roja's body filled with peak aura slashing from top to bottom. A huge slash appeared out of thin air and flew towards the sky. Just when everyone had not yet realized what was going on, a throwing object happened to appear within the range of the slashing attack. The slash immediately chopped this fish-like thing into pieces. Is this the power of that target fruit? Ain said next to him, it should be that this ability, from a certain perspective, is a very powerful ability, but this user is just a waste. Hearing Roja's words, the corner of Neptune's mouth twitched. If Vanderdecken the Nike is a waste, then those of us, Sharkstar, and others who did not bring Vanderdecken the Nike to justice, are we not the waste among wastes? Of course, Neptune also knew that Roja's words were just unintentional words. So open the door. Neptune ordered to the Watcher. Roja said, at this time, I can go alone, no problem. Your Majesty the King. No problem. Received Neptune's approval. Roja walked into the hard-shell tower. As soon as he entered the hard-shell tower, Roja saw Baixing lying on the holy snow-white bed, curled up slightly and looking very cute. Shirahoshi is sleeping soundly. Unbeknownst to her, someone else had broken into the hard-shell tower. It can be said that she was very bold and unrestrained at this time. Roja blushed a little when he saw it. He pretended to cough. The sudden sound suddenly woke up Bai Xing. She quickly stood up and looked at Roja, while her delicate and pretty face was filled with countless rosy colors. Luoya quickly calmed down and said to Bai Xing, "Princess, please introduce yourself. I am Bai Xing, an admiral of the Navy. My name is Luoya. Please give me your advice." "My name is Bai Xing. How did you get in?" "It was King Neptune who asked me to come in." Roja was very familiar with it and came to Bai Xing. Bai Xing stretched out his palm and placed Roja in his palm naturally. For some reason, Bai Xing felt that the man named Roja in front of him was so attractive to him, the heartbeat couldn't help but speed up a lot. This was a feeling she had never experienced before, after living in a hard-shell tower for a long time. "Bai Xing, your father has already told me the matter. I won't say any nonsense. I only want to ask you one thing. Do you yearn for a free life?" "Live freely." Bai Xing was obviously stunned when he heard Roja's words. She subconsciously looked at the small window next to her. The light shone from the small window, and the warm feeling made Bai Xing yearn for it. But she didn't dare leave the hard-shell tower, because as soon as she left, many projectiles would appear in the air and fly toward her. If it weren't for the fact that she avoided it faster, she might have been injured. I don't know how much time had passed in the hard-shell tower, and even Bai Xing's perception of the outside world was somewhat blurry. Tears welled up in Shirahoshi's eyes. For a moment, Bai Xing felt that he had suffered all sorts of grievances. This kind of grievance made Bai Xing burst into tears. She had done nothing wrong, so why did something like this happen to keep her living in a hard-shell tower without being able to get out? "Roya, I want to go out. I want to walk out of the hard-shell tower openly and experience that kind of free life," Shirahoshi shouted loudly. At the same time, tears welled up from his eyes. It's just that these tears are really a bit big compared to normal people. But thinking about it, Shirahoshi's body shape is relatively normal. Do you believe me? If you do, we can go out openly now. I don't know if it's because of the 100% favorability factor. Shirahoshi's trust in Roja was full. From the beginning, Bai Xing nodded vigorously and said to Roja, "Well, Roja, I believe you." With that said, Bai Xing swam out from the small space of the hard-shell tower. When Neptune saw White Star and walked out of the hard-shell tower, he almost couldn't control his emotions, but after all, he had been a king for many years. Neptune took a deep breath and gained some control. Forcing himself to keep his voice calm, he said to Bai Xing, "Bai Xing, Bai Xing, believe Roja, he will definitely be able to defeat Vanderdyke and the Nine. You will never have to live in a hard-shell tower again." Bai Xing nodded vigorously. But at this moment, another throwing object flew from the distance. The throwing object was actually a throwing knife, with a letter stuck on it. Drawing an arc in the air, it flew towards the White Star. Seeing this, Roja shouted softly, "Ain?" "Yes, Lord Roja." As Roja finished speaking, Ain drew out his saber. He rose up from the ground and held the blade horizontally, directly blocking the flying knife. The whole process went smoothly and seemed extremely easy. Remove the envelope from the flying knife. Well, Roja slowly unfolded it. What comes into view is a rather unbearable love letter. No, calling it a love letter is an eyesore. The fonts on it are crooked, as if they have just learned how to write. "Shirahoshi, let's go. I want you to see this nightmare disappear with your own eyes." Roja planned to use this method to eliminate the haze in Bai Xing's heart. This bad memory will be completely gone through the death of Vanderdyke and Nike. "Do I need to come over?" "The king has many things to do every day, so just leave this place to me." After receiving Roga's reply, Neptune nodded. He believed Roja and others. Under the leadership of Bai Xing, everyone moved towards the location of Vanderdyke and Knox. In fact, there is no need for Bai Xing to lead this at all. With the help of the throwing objects and the flying road, Roja and others were able to find the figure of Vanderdyke and Ninth. Sure enough, after about half an hour, Roja and others saw Vanderdyke and Ninth next to Noah's Ark in the Forest of the Sea. This was the first time they saw such a huge ship. The whole person's spirit was shaken. On the contrary, Roja, who was very interested, compared it with Noah's Ark in the system space. The material and size should be the same. But the Noah's Ark in front of us is already in the depths of the sea. It has existed for too long, and its defense power can be said to have declined significantly. Bai Shing's focus was entirely on Vanderdecken next. She can't wait to regain her freedom. She wants to be free and swim in the sea, instead of living curled up in a small hard-shell tower. Contrary to what they thought, Vanderdecken saw Bai Shing coming in front of him. It can be said that he was not too excited at all. He said to Bai Shing, have you finally agreed to my proposal? Without further ado, let's hold the wedding as soon as possible. Thinking that he would soon be able to control Neptune and become the overlord of the world. Vanderdecken felt a burning sensation in his heart. But after hearing the words of Vanderdecken, Bai Shing immediately refused. Vanderdecken, I advise you not to fantasize about these things anymore. I will never agree to your proposal. If you really want to marry alone, then I will give myself to Roja. Roja? At first, Vanderdecken did not realize who Roja was, but when he looked at the man next to Shirahoshi, he felt bad. Would you rather marry a human than me? Vanderdecken said viciously. After saying these words, Vanderdecken said again, it doesn't matter. As long as I kill him, then you are still mine. Bai Shing, it's a sin for such a person to exist in the world for just 1 second longer. It's best not to take care of him anymore. Roja didn't take Vanderdecken in his eyes at all. He just ordered to Aang next to him, kill him! Yes, Lord Roja. Aang nodded vigorously, then took a step forward and said to Vanderdecken, your opponent is me. After saying that, Aang rushed towards Vanderdecken, because she knew that Roja didn't want to waste time on such a bastard. It seems that you are just a pretty boy who can hide behind women. Wait until I kill this woman, and then I will take care of you. Vanderdecken obviously did not know Roja's identity. If he knew that Roja just killed Hody Jones with just one move, when he met Roja, he must have run away without saying a word. It's just that in this world there are no ifs. Roja has not yet started teaching Anne all aspects of swordsmanship. I just keep letting Anne lay the foundation there, and keep exercising my mentality.
At this time, Man's state of mind had reached a very calm state.
When facing Vanderdecken, there was no disturbance in his heart, and his whole person was in a state of absolute calmness. In this state, his concentration has been greatly improved, and his combat effectiveness and reflexes have also been slightly improved. Don't you know that the faster you run, the faster you die? Vanderdecken also ran towards Anne with a ferocious smile on his face. Seeing this scene, Bai Shing's heart suddenly tightened. Be careful, don't let him... Before Bai Shing could finish speaking, he was stopped by Roja. Roke said to Bai Shing with a serious expression, Bai Shing, this is Aang's battle. She needs to guess the enemy's various abilities by herself and think independently on how to defeat him. So don't remind her for the time being. Bai Shing nodded thoughtfully. She originally wanted to remind Aang not to be touched by Vanderdecken, because once touched, Vanderdecken will use the ability of the target fruit to hit the target. At this time, Aang obviously didn't know this characteristic. She used her peak swordsman's will to the limit. The whole person's aura is like a sharp sword about to come out of the body. Its sharp edge is revealed. Aang held the sharp blade in his hand, reversed his wrist, and slashed out of the air, roaring towards Vanderdecken. However, Vanderdecken combat ability is not weak. Kankan dodged the slash, and Vanderdecken touched the corner of Aang's clothes. I saw Vanderdecken showing a ferocious smile, and took out 8 flying knives from somewhere. 4 on each side. The flying knife was filled with poison and glowed with a green light, making people shudder. Ha ha ha, you are already dead now! I am a person with abilities that has been cursed by the target. Everything I touch is a target that I can definitely hit, so go to hell. As Vanderdecken finished speaking, he threw the flying knife in his hand. 8 flying knives roared in the air. The poison above is absolutely painful. Once touched, Aang frowned slightly. But the mood remains unchanged. Cut. Aang swung his sword again. In this sword, there was the realization of the peak swordsman of Aang. The majestic sword energy roared out. Strong air currents swept in all directions. A sharp slash cut through the sky in an instant, as if cutting the air in half. Stab. Wherever it passed, it stirred up a cloud of dust. When Roja saw this scene, his eyes lit up and he said, try to grasp this momentum and try to hit the realm of the great swordsman for the first time. Yes, Aang shouted back. But facing this sharp slash, these 8 flying knives were not affected by the airflow. Bang, bang, bang! The flying knife hit the slash and was immediately cut in half and fell to the ground. Good chance. Aang narrowed her beautiful eyes and said, shave. I saw Anne's figure immediately behind Vanderdyke and Ice. Fruit ability, activate. Ogin is not only a swordsman, but also a retrogressor who has eaten the fruits of retrogression. Any person or object touched by Aang can go back 12 years. Of course, with the continuous development of fruit abilities, there will be more and more time to go backwards. When it reaches its peak, even one thought can make people disappear. Vanderdyke and Alak only felt that his body was shrinking continuously and his clothes were hanging on his body, which looked quite weird. At this time, Ain's momentum had reached its peak. A gleam flashed in her eyes. Everything seemed to fall into place. During this period of time, the insights I gained from being around Roja came together at this moment. Ain's aura suddenly increased tenfold. The overwhelming sword intent spread at this time. With Aang as the center, the wild wind blows the surrounding seaweed. Is this the first time you enter the realm of a great swordsman? Feeling the power in his body, Aang felt that the blood in his body was boiling completely. Horror. Shocking. Fear. Vanderdyke and Naik looked at the scene in front of him, and his heart trembled with alarm. The atmosphere has become very strange now. It was clear that they were evenly matched just now. Now, in just a moment, something changed. His body, strength, and agility were all declining rapidly. And the Aang in front of him has at least 10 times the strength, which makes him impossible to fight. A strong sense of death enveloped Vanderdyke and Naken, making his heart completely fall to the bottom. I saw Aang holding a sharp sword and waving the blade continuously. Every time he swings, there will be a dazzling and brilliant slash heading towards Vanderdyke. The momentum is like a rainbow. Every wave is equivalent to consolidating one's own realm. Boom! Boom! The air is split. The ground is cracking. The wind is roaring! Under these fierce attacks was the almost desperate gaze of King Vanderdyke and Ice. It's not fair to be promoted in battle. Damn it, just with this momentum, you can imagine how powerful these slashes are. Damn it, there's no way to hide from it. Countless thoughts flashed through the mind of King Vanderdyke and the Nats at this time. Finally, he came to the conclusion that he must die. Damn it, if I'm gonna die, you won't be able to live. Just die. Before the attack arrived, Vanderdyke and I touched the Noah's Ark next to him. The fruit ability is activated. Noah's Ark was like a ferocious beast awakening. Countless seawater surged and began to float, then mixed with the turbulent and unsolvable momentum, it crashed towards Aang. At this time, dozens of slashes had taken away the life of Vanderdyke and Knight. But now, they have a greater crisis. Looking at the huge hull of Noah's Ark, Aang swallowed subconsciously, and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. She could already imagine how much damage it would cause when such a huge Noah's Ark fell rapidly from the sky. Maybe the entire Fishman Island will be completely destroyed because of this. For fish people and mermaids, there may be nothing in the 10,000 meter deep sea. But for humans, this is a disaster. And especially for ability users like them, it is absolutely impossible to survive in the sea. Something must be done. Aang, who had been promoted to the level of a great swordsman for the first time, could no longer be happy. She took a deep breath with a solemn expression. She was already planning to make a desperate move. If I sacrifice myself, this Noah's Ark might stop. But at this moment, Roja came to Aang's side without knowing when. He gently placed his hand on Aang's fragrant shoulder. The warm palm immediately gave Aang spiritual strength. Aang looked at Roja. His vision was filled with Roga's majestic voice, and he only heard her whisper, "Lord Roja, you've done a good job, now leave it to me." Roja's tone did not change, as if Noah's Ark was not enough for Roja to take it to heart, but Aang is obviously very aware of the dangers involved. But this is an order. Roja turned around, looked at Noah's Ark, which was landing faster and faster, and said calmly, "Besides, it's just a Noah's Ark in Fishman Island." After a chaotic battle just now, it finally calmed down. Just as they were preparing to clean up after the war and repair the damaged things, suddenly they saw Noah's Ark gradually rising into the sky. 1 passed to 10, 10 to 100. For a short moment, everyone stood there, looking at Noah's Ark in front of them, with pale faces. Look there. What is that? Is this a ship? It's too big. Is this Noah's Ark? Why does it rise? Could it be that the ability of Vanderdicken... Is he planning to destroy Fishman Island? Madman. It's over. It's completely over now. Countless people looked at Noah's Ark in front of them with fear. Looking at Noah's Ark, it continued to enlarge in their field of vision. Their bodies became extremely stiff due to tension, to the point where they were completely unable to move. As the king, Neptune obviously saw this scene before him. His heart kept sinking, and it could even be said that he had fallen into the abyss. All he can hope for is that Ro can save everything. White Dove! Neptune held his hand tightly, his expression full of complexity. I kept praying in my heart, nothing will happen. Just when everyone felt despair in their hearts, I saw a white gas rising from underneath Noah's Ark. The gas continued to rise and spread, and then suddenly turned into substance. These gases condensed together and turned into a head, arms, torso, legs, armor, and wings on the back. The transparent feeling of white makes people feel extremely holy, but the gesture of standing tall and towering up to the sky made people's hearts freeze. What is this? It can't be some other monster. It's going to wreak havoc on Fishman Island. If this is really the case, then Fishman Island is really over. Just when everyone didn't know what was going on, Roja, who was under Noah's Ark, only said, Phantom Fruit, Susanoo, White Dove, Armed Color Entanglement. Any skill that is named White Dove can be said to be Roja, the most powerful skill nowadays. The powerful White Susanoo was covered with a layer of armed haki under Rocha's control. When armed domineering energy is entangled in a large area, the power that can be unleashed is extremely terrifying. Roja was seen standing in the middle of Susanoo's forehead with his arms folded, controlling Susanoo to jump up from the ground. Arriving right underneath Noah's Ark, Finger gun, 10 fingers, Honglan! Susan raised his arms, both hands condensed with powerful strength. Puff, 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 puff. As his hands continued to thrust out, every Noah's Ark touched by Susanoo was like tofu, broken into dregs. It was only then that the people in the square finally reacted. Is this the power of General Beige? This is too scary. This is the most powerful force I have ever seen. With General Beige here, we will be fine. When they saw Rocha's ability, they felt a lot more at ease. King Neptune looked in front of him and made a decision in his heart. At this time, Roja was like Luffy from the future, displaying a rubber machine gun and waving his hands continuously. It was like a super powerful blender, beating Noah's Ark into pieces. Mine's eyes sparkled. Master Luya, you are so strong. Noah's Ark is so huge that even if 2 minutes have passed, Roja has not finished destroying the bow. As long as this Noah's Ark does not touch Ain, it will not stop. Although many thoughts flashed through Rocha's mind now, he still chose the most deterrent method. Roja suddenly retreated, took a deep breath, and then clenched his hands into fists. Return of life! The biggest wheel, 6 king spears. As Roja's words fell, a huge shockwave was generated in Susanoo's hands, controlled by Roja. As Roja released the shockwave, a fierce and unstoppable force burst out of the air. The huge shockwave easily penetrated Noah's Ark. Where the sound wave started, Noah's Ark suddenly burst. All resistance disappeared out of thin air, and what replaced it was sawdust flying like a furious wave. If you look down from above, you will see that there is no obstruction at all, wherever this terrifying shockwave passes. It won't take a moment. Noah's Ark, silent in the deep sea, was completely destroyed in Rocha's hands. The ancient Noah's Ark has been completely destroyed by the host. As promised, it will be inherited by the host. The task is issued. Let the fish and the mermaid live freely in the mainland. After completion, the reward. The 3 ancient weapons. 1. The King of Heaven. As the electronic sound of the system fell, Roja was stunned for a moment. King of Heaven. After completing this task, the system will actually reward the king. You know, the 3 great weapons in ancient times were Pluto, Neptune, and Heaven. Pluto's design should be in Tom's hands now. Moreover, there is ancient history in the desert of Alabasta, which can be solved by Robin or Olvia when the time comes. Neptune is Baisheng next to him, and his favorability towards him has reached 100%. It can be said that he is also in control of Neptune. Pluto and Neptune, Roja is equivalent to obtaining them. Only the King of Heaven is more miserable. But now, there is a reward from the king in the system. How can Roja not be excited? Come on, at the same time. Mermaid Cafe. A mermaid with short black hair, cold blue eyes, pale skin, purple nails, wearing a hooded top, smoking a pipe in his hand, was looking at the crystal ball in front of him in shock. This crystal ball still shows the scene of Fishman Island being about to be destroyed. How is that possible? Didn't the White Dove already destroy Noah's Ark? Why on earth did it destroy Fishman Island? Charlie is the owner of the Mermaid Cafe and a fortune teller. Moreover, it is very famous on Fishman Island, and the accuracy of divination predictions is as high as 100. She was in a state of turmoil just now, always feeling that something big was about to happen. So I used a crystal ball to make a prediction. Then she saw the destruction of Fishman Island from the crystal ball. Just at this time, Noah's Ark appeared, making Charlie think that it was Noah's Ark that destroyed Fishman Island. But the appearance of the white pigeon saved the crisis on Fishman Island and made her feel relieved. However, now it is predicted again that Fishman Island will still be destroyed, which makes Charlie's heart completely sink to the bottom. She had to tell Neptune herself. Thinking of this, Charlie immediately set off and swam in the direction of Neptune. At this time, Neptune came to Roy's position. Roja put away his armed hockey and the power of the phantom fruit. It slowly fell from the sky. Baigay, thank you for your hard work this time. Not only did you save Baigay, but you also saved Fishman Island. When Neptune said this, he paused and turned to look at Baixing. Baixing, what do you think of General Baigay? Do you like him? When Baixing heard Neptune's words, he was stunned for a moment, and then his delicate and pretty face became rosy. Not to mention the 100% favorability degree. Even if it wasn't there, Shirahoshi still had a lot of affection for Roja, because it was the person in front of her who completely rescued her from the cage of restraint. Baixing lowered his head and looked a little embarrassed. I like Roja very much. When Baixing said these words, he lowered his head shyly, looking extremely shy. After Neptune received Baixing's answer, he said to Roja, General White Pigeon, your help to Fishman Island this time is really great. I think no matter what kind of reward it is, it will be worth it. It's hard to express how grateful we are to you. How about this? Since my daughter likes you very much, how about we make an engagement again? As soon as the words fell, the Shark Star, Emperor Star, and Cartoon Star around Neptune were all shocked in their hearts. They all looked at Roja with serious expressions. Ain, who was next to Roja, and Stella, who had just come with Neptune, were also very shocked. You know, Shirahoshi is the princess of Fishman Island. I didn't say anything about my identity or appearance. Just, Ain didn't know why, but he always felt a little sour in his heart. It was as if something of his own had been taken away. Even Ain's state of mind has improved. At this time, I was a little unable to control myself. Your Majesty, I'm afraid there's something wrong with this. Although Princess Baixing has the beauty of a fish and a goose, her body shape... Neptune was not angry at Ain's question, because he knew that the Ain in front of him was not an ordinary lieutenant, but Roya's apprentice. There is no need to worry about this. After a female mermaid reaches adulthood, she can freely control the size of her body, and her tail will split into 2 legs. If she is combined with a human, the child she will give birth to will also be a human being, and at most they will be very good at water. After listening to Neptune's explanation, Ain stopped saying anything. At this time, Roja was listening to Neptune as if he was crazily selling his own daughter. I just feel a little dumbfounded. Sensing Baixing's expectant gaze, Roja smiled and said, Your Majesty, I have no objection to the engagement. But Baixing has just come out of the hard-shell tower. Isn't it a bit too hasty? No, I don't feel anxious. Baixing heard Roja's words and immediately replied to Roja. His anxious look made everyone around him a little surprised. Afterwards, everyone burst into laughter. Baixing acted like an ostrich again, and looked very cute. Neptune laughed out loud. Ha ha ha, Badier. It seems that Badier can't wait any longer. Why don't you just agree? Luaya was naturally very happy when he saw Baixing looking so cute. But at this moment, Charlie ran over. As soon as she saw Neptune, Charlie shouted, Your Majesty, it's bad. Something bad is gonna happen. When Neptune heard this, His expression suddenly changed. Fishman Island is only that big, so Neptune naturally knows about Charlie. Especially the divination results are 100% accurate, making Neptune dare not restrain him. So what happened? Neptune felt deep bitterness in his heart. Why is Fishman Island so full of disasters? Thinking of this, Neptune looked at Baige next to him and thought to himself, fortunately, General Baige is here with General Baige's strength, no matter what kind of disaster it is. He should be able to survive it safely. Roja looked at Charlie and frowned slightly. Without any hesitation, Luedam immediately released his peak domineering power. He could foresee what was going to happen 5 minutes later. The moment he activated his ability, Roka's face suddenly turned pale. What did he see? A Sea King type that is absolutely over 10,000 meters in size surrounds Fishman Island and may burst the bubble barrier of Fishman Island at any time. At this time, Charlie also came to Nipton's side and said to Nipton, "Your Majesty King, Fishman Island is about to be destroyed." Charlie took a deep breath and said again, "In my divination, Fishman Island was about to be destroyed. I thought it was a crisis caused by Noah's Ark, but now that the crisis has been lifted, the divination result has not changed. Then can you predict the exact time?" Charlie shook her head desperately towards Neptune. She is extremely confident in her results, but in terms of time, it is really impossible to predict. In terms of time, it will be in about 5 minutes. Roja looked up to the sky and murmured to himself. Neptune did not ask Roja how he knew. At Baige's level, Neptune felt that Baige would not joke around in this situation. "White Pigeon, what on earth is this thing that will destroy Fishman Island? Is there anything you can do?" If I'm not mistaken, it's a sea dragon type Neptune that is definitely over 10,000 meters long. As Roja's words fell, the pupils of everyone present shrank suddenly, as if to verify Roja's words. Outside the Fishman Island, a terrifying figure squeezed through the waves and came into view when Charlie saw the 10,000 meter long sea dragon appearing outside Fishman Island. She collapsed directly on the ground, her face extremely pale. There is no time. Fishman Island is really going to disappear from history this time. The accuracy of Shala's prediction reached. No one can violate what she predicted, so because of this, everyone feels very desperate. The atmosphere of despair and panic filled the air at this time. Roja did not hesitate and immediately released a layer of phantom over the Fishman Island. Except for Luaya and others, no one else could see Hai Long's figure. Neptune looked at Roa and said solemnly, if ordinary people see this scene, there will probably be even more riots. Now we just need to think about how to break this situation." Hai Long's whole body exuded astonishing power. The scales glowed with a cold light, and his eyes glared, looking calm and intimidating. It seems to be observing the weak points of Fishman Island in order to launch a fatal blow. My divination results are 100% accurate. It is absolutely impossible for us to resist the attack of this 10,000 meter sea dragon. Shaoli was beside him and said to everyone with a pale face. Roja frowned slightly, turned to look at Charlie, who was slumped on the ground, and said, "So what if the accuracy rate is 100%? With me here, this accuracy rate is not valid." The surrounding atmosphere has begun to gradually become stagnant. The expressions on everyone's faces were all serious. Facing the 10,000 meter sea dragon outside the Fishman Island, no matter how they thought about it, they could not think of a way to resist the sea dragon. Shaoli and others only felt enveloped in despair. But the ordinary people in the Fishman Island Square were celebrating enthusiastically that the crisis was finally over. What they didn't know was that behind the phantom in the sky was the terrifying Sea King that had never appeared before. A giant sea dragon type Neptune that is 10,000 meters long. The biggest crisis in the history of Fishman Island quietly came at this time. At this moment, Bai Xing, who had been silent next to him, suddenly spoke. "Well, do you want me to give it a try?" When Neptune heard Bai Xing's words, his expression suddenly changed, and he said, "Bai Xing, please stop making trouble, okay? Do you know what the situation is now?" Neptune obviously didn't want Shirahoshi's identity to be exposed. The white pigeon didn't matter. Neptune felt that he was very accurate in judging people. But Ain and Stella are different. Neptune didn't know much about these two people at all. If the two of them leaked Shirahoshi's identity, it would really be a waste. But when Neptune's words fell in Bai Xing's ears, Bai Xing frowned slightly. She said to Neptune, Father, we don't have much time left now. Let me try it. It has reached this point. Even if it is exposed, it doesn't matter. Seeing that Baishin had made up his mind, Neptune opened his mouth, but said nothing more. Roja obviously noticed Baishin's thoughts, and the corners of his mouth rose slightly, and a very gentle smile hung on the corners of Roja's lips. In this atmosphere of despair, it does seem a bit out of place.
Hey, and take Stella back to the Dragon Palace.
Neptune glanced at the white dove in surprise, but he quickly reacted. He also said to the three brothers, Shark Star, Emperor Star, and Rolling Star behind him, "You and Ajignain go back together." But nothing is wrong. This is an order. Roja and Neptune are creating a better environment for White Star. Although Ain and Stella don't know why Roja did this, Roja must have his reasons. Ain and Stella both believed in Roja. Without any hesitation, they quickly moved towards the Dragon Palace. Only Roja, Neptune, Shirahoshi, and Charlie were present. The main reason why Charlie stays here is because of her divination skills. Baishin glanced at Roja and Neptune, nodded slightly, and then slowly swam towards the 10,000-meter sea dragon. Baishin did not get too close, and then used his ability to communicate with Neptune to try to communicate with the sea dragon. "Hello! Roar!" Before Baishin could say anything, he saw this 10,000-meter sea dragon roaring. The sound was like the coming of an evil spirit. At this time, even the people in the square heard this terrible sound. What the hell happened? This sound is so scary. Mom, I'm afraid. Just when the people were panicking, three mermaid princes, Shark Star, Car Star, and Emperor Star appeared in front of the people. "Everyone, don't panic. This is just a little trick played by the king. Yes, you can take a look at the sky above. Isn't it still very beautiful?"
After hearing the prince's words, the hearts of these people slowly calmed down.
When they saw these princes, they didn't feel panic at all, so they felt that it shouldn't be a big deal. As for gadgets, there are no gadgets. There is only one sea dragon with a body length of 10,000 meters. White Star, it refuses to communicate with you. It's better to defeat someone like this Neptune. Hailong seemed to have heard what Roja said and immediately shouted at Roja, "You say I'm weak? How will you know if you don't try?" Luoya used all things to communicate and said to the Dragon King. This was Roya's operation, which stunned both Shirahoshi and Neptune. Baiching even subconsciously said to Roja, "Roja, can you communicate with Neptune humans?" As Shirahoshi finished speaking, Neptune's pupils shrank suddenly. He couldn't react for a while. Isn't it White Star who is Neptune? Why is there another person who can communicate with Neptune? And it's still human? It's just a trivial matter. At this moment, Hailong suddenly let out a roar and hit the outermost bubble of Fishman Island. The strong tenacity of the bubble caused the sea dragon to bounce slightly, but it did not break through immediately. It can be seen that in the deep sea, the bubbles on Fishman Island are still very resilient. However, Hailong's action also put unprecedented pressure on Neptune. He is the king of Fishman Island, and he will never allow Fishman Island to be destroyed in front of his eyes. Thinking of this, Neptune turned to look at Roja and said to Roja, "General White Pigeon, is there anything you can do here?" After all, Neptune heard it just now. Roja said it was just a small matter. If it is a trivial matter, then General Baige must have a solution. After hearing Neptune's words, Roja Adam immediately said to Neptune, "Yes, there is, but it may be a bit dangerous." Danger! Baixing was very worried when he heard Roja's words. In just a short moment, some tears filled his eyes. "Don't worry, I am still somewhat confident in my own strength." Boom! At this time, Hailong once again bumped into the bubble on Fishman Island. This loud noise seemed to hit everyone's hearts. This made Neptune's face even more ugly. Roja also put away his smile and said to everyone, "It's just that I hope that what you see next will not be told to others." Hearing Roja's words, Neptune immediately patted his chest and said, "Don't worry, Baige, we are going to become in-laws soon, and no matter what it is, we will never leak it." Beixing also nodded vigorously. She now regards Roja as her future significant other. In her pure heart, Roja is the most important person to her. After receiving their answers, Roja nodded and then took a deep breath, and the white breath gradually wrapped around him. "Susanoo, White Pigeon." I saw a pair of beautiful-looking white wings spread out on the back of the white giant. The white wings flapped vigorously, directly driving Roja to fly towards the outside of the Fishman Island. When they saw Roja's move, everyone was completely stunned. General Beige, what are you planning to do? Is he planning to go out and fight this 10,000-meter sea dragon in the deep sea? No, Roja, come back quickly. No one present felt that Roja could do such a thing. You must know that Roja is a person with abilities. Once he enters the sea, the curse deep in his soul will cause Roja to directly lose his power. Even if you don't talk about ability users, just the sea pressure under 10,000 meters is not something that others can bear. It is a terrifying pressure that will definitely crush ordinary people into minced meat. Faced with such a harsh environment, Roja chose the most dangerous method. How could Neptune and Shirahoshi not be surprised by this? Bai Xing's tears at this moment finally fell uncontrollably from the corners of his eyes. Royal, if you can't come back, then I won't live alone. You gave me my freedom. If you are gone, then what is the use of my freedom? When Neptune heard Bai Xing's words, there was a hint of bitterness on his lips. He only hopes that Roja can really succeed. If Roja fails, it will really be a disaster for Fishman Island. Charlie saw Roya's determination. My heart shuddered. She suddenly discovered that with this determination, even her 100% accurate divination rate no longer seemed so scary. Just listen to Charlie slumped on the ground and murmured, maybe Roya's existence can really reverse what is happening now. Roja crossed his arms, controlled the Susanoo created from the phantom fruit, and headed towards the deep sea. This is why he wanted Ain Stella to leave. Not only because of Shirahoshi, but also because of Neptune. What's more, from the beginning, Roja planned to use this method to subdue the sea dragon in front of him. That's right. It's about conquering. From the moment Hailong appeared, Luoye fell in love with this Hailong. You know, the Neptune species that can reach more than 10,000 meters only appear in legends. In reality, not many people can witness it with their own eyes. Most of the people who witnessed it were already dead. And it is such a kind of Neptune. If it can be conquered by oneself, what a great thing it would be. A little excitement flashed in Roja's eyes. He flapped his wings hard again, and the wings behind him stirred up a strong wind. Roja's body emerged directly from the bubble in the Fishman Island. The strong seawater pressure pressed on Roja's body in all directions. Fortunately, the fruit eaten by Roja had no side effects. So, even in the sea, Roja can still use his abilities. Suzu, who created the phantom fruit, was wrapped with armed haki to resist the pressure under 10,000 meters of seawater, and at the same time, he could hold Roja's breath. Because of the seawater, they were all pushed out. Between the two, one can be said to be indispensable. Hey, let me tell you, if I defeat you, you can be my mount. Luoya used all things to communicate and said to Hailong. But this obviously stimulated Hailong. I think he is the ultimate overlord in the deep sea. The body is 10,000 meters long. If it's vertical, you can even reach the sea directly from Fishman Island. It was such an existence, but Roja told him that he wanted to take it as a mount. His pride will never be allowed. Ho ho ho! Through communication with all things, Roja knew what Hailong's answer was. You said it's impossible for me to defeat you? Then let's try. After the words fell, Roja stopped talking. Controlling the huge Susanoo, he rushed towards Hailong. Although he said he was rushing away, Roja actually wanted to stay as far away from the Fishman Island as possible. He didn't want the aftermath of the battle to spread to Fishman Island due to his own reasons, thus causing the destruction of Fishman Island. Roar! Hailong roared. After the translation through all things communication, Luoya knew that Hailong was saying, boy, don't run. Under the 10,000 meter deep sea, Roja relied on the powerful power of Susanoo and the peak of armament haki. He just squeezed out a passage from the deep sea. If people see this scene in front of them, it will definitely be shocking. Because those with abilities who eat the fruit can actually swim freely in the sea. I think it will be directly targeted by the whole world. Therefore, Roja should be a little more careful about this. Fighting in the deep sea is such a waste of energy. Boy, what's wrong? Don't you want to run away? Hearing the roars of the sea dragon, Roja crossed his arms and looked at the Susanoo created by the phantom fruit. He smiled and said, Aang, don't run away, because the distance is enough now. It's enough. Before Hailong could react, he heard Luoya begin to sing. The thundering carriage, the gap of the spinning wheel, this thing has lights clustered and divided into 6. The 61 of the binding Tao, 6 rods like prison. As Roja's words fell, in the dark, deep sea, 6 huge pieces of light suddenly appeared. These 6 huge pieces of light immediately locked Tai Long's movements. This is not over yet. This is not over yet. Roja is still singing continuously. The 62 of the Binding Dao 100 steps to the wind. A light rod, divided into multiple light rods, was directly inserted into Hai Long's body. 63 of the Dao of binding with chains. There is another strip of light forming a thick snake-like chain, entangling Hai Long, making Hai Long move even more painfully. Binding Dao 61, 62, and 63 were all used on Hai Long under the control of Lu Ya. 3 high-level bindings in a row slowed Hai Long's speed to the extreme. What is this? How did you trap me? Although the 10,000-meter sea dragon has lived for who knows how long. But I have never seen this kind of ability of Roja. This made Hai Long feel that Roja was more dangerous than he perceived. It's still the same sentence, surrender or not. Hearing Roja's words, Hai Long's eyes became even redder. I will never surrender. I will never surrender to humans. As the sea dragon roared, all the shackles on its body were torn to pieces, turned into little bits of starlight and dissipated in the deep sea. With a powerful tail swing, he rushed directly towards Roja. It's too slow. I've already predicted your attack route. Lu Ya activated his pinnacle of domineering energy, gently turned sideways, and pressed against Hai Long's scales, thus easily dodging Hai Long's attack. Since you have always disagreed, then I will beat you until you agree. I have always been very confident in my own strength. Roja didn't say much, but the domineering aura wrapped around his body became even more intense. Almost a rich ink color. It seems darker than the deep sea. Boom, 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 in the deep sea. Lu Ya and the 10,000-meter giant sea dragon were constantly competing. In Fishman Island, King Neptune and Princess White Star next to him. Occasionally you can see the sea dragon, with its extremely strong tail, passing in front of you. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief and felt nervous. It's been 10 minutes now. I don't know how Baghdad's doing now. Neptune was very anxious, but he had no choice but to provide any help to Roja. Bai Sheng also tried to use his own abilities to find more Neptunes for Roja as assistance. But the power caused by the battle between Roja and Hai Long was really too great. Except for those low-level creatures that could not sense it, all those who were slightly advanced had escaped. Bai Sheng could only clasp his hands and pray for Roja continuously. The battle between Roja and Hai Long continues. Although being in the deep sea consumes a lot of physical strength, Roja feels that he can still survive for a day or two, which is enough for him to deal with this sea dragon. And Hai Long was obviously getting more and more frightened as he fought, but Lu Ya's power was simply too powerful. Among them, the main one is the peak armed color domineering, which supplements the strength too much. With this, Lu Ya can compete with Hai Long on a par. The water is constantly turbulent and churning. On the way, Roja even encountered a lot of coated ships preparing to go to Fishman Island. But these pirate ships, without exception, were all sent away by Roja's moves. On the sea, the waves are rough. The waves were rolling, each wave higher than the last. In fact, the highest wave has easily exceeded 50 meters. This kind of vision spread to Malin Fando. Sengoku, who was in the office and thinking about how to suppress the 4 emperors, also noticed the roar of the waves at this time. Reporting to the Marshal, various huge whirlpools and waves have appeared in the sea near Marine Vando. Please give instructions to the Marshal. Behind Marine Vando is the Holy Land of Marigia. At the bottom of Holy Land, Marigia, is Fishman Island. After Roja left the Fishman Island, he kept moving towards the distance. So he came to Marine Vando, the deep sea and the nearby sea. What caused such a terrifying wave? Let's King Pheasant go over and solve it. Yes, Marshal! Aokiji, who received the order from the Warring States period, arrived at the port of Marine Vando at this time. Among the Navy, only Aokiji has the ability to do this kind of thing. I saw a blue pheasant jumping high from the port. Ice Age! A large amount of air conditioning suddenly filled the King Pheasant's body, and everything the air conditioning passed through was frozen. For a time, the huge waves were all frozen in the blue pheasant ice. However, not yet waiting for the blue pheasant to come down from the sky, in the deep sea, a powerful force seems to be coming from. Again, these fluctuations are constantly impacting the frozen seawater. Within a few minutes, all these ice cubes cracked and turned into debris. On the sea, bigger waves once again set off. Seeing this scene, Shinji frowned deeply. Unwilling to be reconciled, he once again activated his ability. Ice Age! This time in the Ice Age, Aoki Pheasant used all his strength against the sea. In an instant, the entire sea was like an ice paradise. Under the sunlight, it exudes dazzling light. But before Shinji could breathe a sigh of relief, the ice cubes began to melt rapidly again this time. At this time, in the deep sea. Luoya was tired of playing with the sea dragon. Ask me one last time if you would like to be my mount. Roja was in Suzuno, communicating with all things, and said to Hai Long, I will never surrender to a creature weaker than myself. If you can defeat me, I will be your mount. But if you cannot defeat me, not only will you die, but also the creatures on the island will also die. Devoured by me. Hai Long's roar reached Roja's ears. After communicating through all things, Roja knew what Hai Long meant. Compared to the situation where I would rather die than surrender, now I just need to defeat him. The idea of this 10,000-meter sea dragon has changed slightly. This is what you said, so I won't be polite. As Roja's words fell, Lubian Ruoho appeared in Roja's hand. At the same time, Roja also used the power of the phantom fruit to materialize the Ryuken Wakahara into Suzuno's hands. Everything in the world is turned into ashes, and the blades flow like fire. As Roja's words fell, the blade in his hand seemed to shine brighter than ever before. The next moment, the ocean around Roja instantly turned red. A large amount of heat waves spread towards the surroundings, rolling around like they were boiling. Everyone who felt this heat wave, one by one, only existed in the deep sea, and low-level animals began to break out of the water toward the surface of the sea. In an instant, countless fish, octopuses, seahorses, sea snakes, and even a small number of sea kings appeared. All kinds of sea animals with famous and unknown names emerged from the sea level in dense numbers. Shinji stood in the port, sweating profusely as he watched the scene in front of him. I saw that the waves in the sea were even bigger and extremely turbulent. The ice was broken again and swallowed by the sea again. The corner of Shinji's mouth twitched. What the hell happened? It's been 4 times. Yes, Aoki Pheasant has used the Ice Age 4 times since just now. Normally, just using it once can freeze the skill for 2 weeks. At this time, it's like I don't need money. I start using it crazily, but I always fail. General, do you need to take a rest? Drink some water. No, if you don't use Ice Age anymore, then Malinfando will be swallowed by the huge waves. After the words fell, Aokiji jumped into the air again and used the most powerful Ice Age. The cold ice once again covered the seawater, refreeze the seawater into an ice cube. You can even see countless fish from the ice. In the deep sea, Roja held the blade Rohuo and displayed unprecedented power. Because the heat in the deep sea continues to rise, it even directly awakens submarine volcanoes. The 10 undersea volcanoes, due to the pull of Luren Ruoho, completely awakened and erupted with even more powerful power. It was like countless red tongues of blood stirring. Magma is also in the deep sea, constantly erupting and surging out densely. The seabed in the deep sea was shaking from side to side, like a violent earthquake. A crackling sound that can be heard in the ear. Bottomless canyon fissures burst open in the deep sea like the bloody mouths of countless monsters opening from the ground. The entire land fell apart and collapsed in all directions. These heat waves and flames were all absorbed by Lubian Ruoho. Absorbing the power of 10 undersea volcanoes, Roja's flowing blade like fire has already boiled the nearby seawater. I saw Roja raising the Zanpakutō in his hand high, about to chop it down. At this time, Hai Long was scared. It quickly growled, "Stop, stop, I surrender. I am willing to be your mount." When roaring out, Hai Long's voice trembled even more. There is no way. Roja's power has completely exceeded Hai Long's imagination. In its hundreds of years of life, it has never seen such a powerful human being. Even Bai Xing, the king of the sea, could outright ignore her, but Roja's power forced her to surrender. Let me ask, how many humans can fight it under the sea? Coupled with the power of Lu Renruo Huao, it can reach such terrifying high temperatures in the deep sea, and it also triggers the surrounding submarine volcanoes, which makes it not afraid. After living for such a long time, Hailong has naturally seen underwater volcanic eruptions, and what kind of power they will erupt. Not to mention the freak in front of me who can control fire. Hearing Hailong's words, the corners of Roja's mouth raised slightly. He didn't expect that Hailong was so aware of current affairs. Just think of it as a way to save yourself some skin trauma. Thinking of this, Roja hurriedly changed the trajectory of his sword swing. Holding the flowing blade like fire in his hand, he slashed a perfect arc in the deep sea. I saw this arc cutting towards the sea. The flame slash was like a raging fire, erupting directly from the deep sea. On the sea surface, the thick ice blocks were broken by the seawater again. Immediately afterwards, a big bag seemed to bulge out of the sea. This big bag is getting bigger and bigger. Under the witness of countless naval soldiers of Marine Fando, it suddenly exploded. In an instant, flames burst out from the deep sea. When it broke out, an earth-shattering roar echoed in everyone's ears. The wind picked up. Countless waves rolled up. There are hundreds of ships and warships among them. A piece was swept up into the sky, swallowed by the monstrous flames. In the highest office of Malinfando, Warring States stood in front of the huge floor-to-ceiling window, staring at the scene in front of him in stunned silence. Torrential flames! No way! What on earth is going on? Warring States kept thinking, "Contact General Baguio immediately. I have something very important to ask him." "Yes, Marshal." At the same time, Roja made the blade Ruoho turn into a part of his soul and return to his mind. After all, the Zanpakutō evolved out of the soul.
That's why we can do this kind of thing.
Roja came to the top of Hailong's head, held Hailong's dragon horns, and said to Hailong, using the method of communicating with all things, "Let's go back to Fishman Island." "Yes, master." "By the way, I'll call you Xiao Hai from now on." Hailong responded, but thinking about his body length, Hailong wondered if he was really small. "Speaking of Xiao Hai, why did you attack Fishman Island?" Hailong roared, "Because Noah's Ark, which symbolizes the words of the oath, was destroyed. That's why I want to destroy the Fishman Island." "Don't worry, I also have Noah's Ark here. It's exactly the same, and it's new. Don't worry about it." As the top Sea King type, sea dragons are not low in intelligence, but they will not betray, because Neptune is the one who pays the most attention to oaths. Roja still knows this. If it weren't for himself, then the sea dragon might really destroy the Fishman Island. At this time, in the Fishman Island, Baishin clasped his hands together and looked outside the Fishman Island with concern. "Father, it seems there is no sound." "Yes, even the burning sensation has begun to gradually decrease." "Is it because the battle is over?" "Roja will definitely win." From beginning to end, Baishin believed in Roja's strength. At this time, there was a huge black shadow in the distance, gradually approaching Fishman Island. Banshin's pupils shrank suddenly and tears fell uncontrollably. "No, absolutely not. There is no way Roja will lose." Baishin kept shaking his head, watching in disbelief as Hailong's figure kept getting closer. At this time, Neptune also closed his eyes in despair. He could already imagine that under the attack of the sea dragon, Fishman Island would be completely destroyed. Charlie, who was sitting paralyzed next to her, also showed a look of despair and murmured, "I knew that no one could break the spell of divination." Just when the three people present were in despair and heartbroken, Roja stood on top of Hailong's head and waved to everyone. Baishin, who had been watching Hailong, was completely stunned at this moment.